We were almost late, but we made it. We definitely made it. That's my bad. How's everyone doing tonight? I told you I'm really going to try to do my best to make sure 7 on the dot. Make sure I'm here, make sure I'm punctual. You know, my computer just turned to 7:01. How's everyone doing tonight? Just getting set up here. Get a little bit of water. That's what I was doing. Running just to get some water. What's up, Purple Shadow? Good to see you. Bath the Monocle, welcome. How you doing tonight? No biggie if you weren't able to do the homework. It's available, it's up there. What's up, Randy from Ghana? How you doing? Coding Garden, welcome, welcome, welcome. Did I do it? Is that one of the things I finished? Nope, I did not finish the shout out. I'm gonna give you a shout out a little bit later once everyone gets in. Coding Garden. What's up? What's up, KS Guard? What's up, Don Lunacy? What's up, Bean James 45? Let me get a little bit of the finest, the Burt's Bees. Sean from LA. Dang, I feel you on the still working thing. I don't think I ever told you guys. I mean, it's a good time to tell you. So the I feel you on the still working thing. The weeks leading up to this boot camp were a little bit tumultuous. I think that's the right word. You know, I'm trying to expand my vocabulary a little bit. But so people don't know, I actually work. So I work for a software company called Fearless. But the contract that I actually work on, that I'm a technical lead for, is for the Small Business Administration. I'm the technical lead for the SBA.gov project, which manages the digital infrastructure and footprint for the SBA.gov website and its tooling. There's a lot of different pieces to SBA. But what that means is, with all the stuff that went down with COVID, all the PPP business loans and stuff, we were in for a delight. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to learn here are things that we utilize to make sure that the SBA's website was always up and available. And the site never went down. I know you might have heard some things about the form. That was something we participated with, but that was not under our jurisdiction. But we were able to help with that and kind of get that, get that running, kind of utilizing some of the things that we had implemented on our site. So I have been pulling some long hours. Like I worked for like 14 straight days, weekends and everything, just trying to get everything off the ground for that. So it's pretty interesting. I'll share some stories from that for sure. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't so SBA actually has their own disaster department. So a lot of people don't know that at the SBA, the Small Business Administration, they deal with disasters all the time. Like they give out disaster loans for anything, for hurricanes, things like that. So they already had their own disaster program, but obviously, you can never expect something like this. So they weren't quite ready for the kind of influx of traffic that happened with COVID. And so we got tapped actually to kind of remedy that. So we basically, us along with some other people with AWS, some other people, we built completely new infrastructure, completely new applications to handle these separate things. So yeah, I did actually work pretty heavily on the PPP stuff to kind of get that off the ground, but it is in someone else's hands now. But yeah, tried to view the quiz. It says my access is denied. Now I have to approve it. Okay, I will check the quiz access once this is over. Let me get my VM started really quick. As usual, we'll give people a few minutes to get on in, introduce yourself, say hi to your fellow, I feel like this is not a class, but say hello to your fellow classmates. Let me just get this. The quiz due tonight, so it's not due until Sunday night. You can take it whatever. No access to the quiz. All right, let me see what I did wrong here. Let me hit the settings. Restrict to users in Mastermind and its trusted organizations. There we go. I think that's what I have to do. Try it now. Use your AWS account for reference. Try it now. I just changed the settings. It says it's collecting email addresses, but it shouldn't be. Let me know. Dope. That's what's up, Anthony Stack. It might be a little bit of coincidence that you just got it approved today. But last class, a recap, you know, maybe if this was an anime, we do, you know, the last episode of Mastermind Academy. We learned a little bit about the cloud, what the cloud was. Yeah, mostly just about what the cloud was. We learned a little bit about computing resources. Talk about that, what, you know, what goes into a computer. We learned that the cloud was actually just a distributed network of computing resources that you could pay for, that you could get access to, gain access to on demand. You pay for what you use. Today, we will absolutely, still says require permissions. All right, we'll take care of that before this is over. That's the last thing we'll do. The quiz is in fact in the Google Classroom, or should be in the Google Classroom, along with the slides. You should have access to the slides as well inside of the Google Classroom, so let me know. But tonight we're going to be just getting logged in. You probably, if you already did your homework, my bad, I just hit the table. You already did your homework. Excellent. I'm proud of you. Good job. But if you did not do your homework, I'm going to go through, I'm going to create a brand new account just for this course. And so super simple setup process, but we're going to take a tour of the AWS console. We're going to talk about the AWS console. We're going to learn about how to access AWS, both via the console and programmatically a little bit, talk about the AWS CLI as well. And then we'll talk about the different service categories that things might fall under. Those service categories being these compute resources and tools that you can rent from, that you can pay for on-demand access to. And then we will discuss AWS's global infrastructure and talk about why, you know, why the cloud, that's part of the reason why the cloud is so great, because of the AWS, or because of the global infrastructure. This is unique to AWS, but this global infrastructure pretty much exists for every cloud provider. So yeah, it would ask the quiz, no issue. Yeah, so it might just take a little bit since I made some changes. Perfect. All right, I got the VM up. I'm just trying to get all my windows. I've learned that I do too much with this channel. I've been trying to do too much. I'm a tech person, so I like, oh, there's a tool over here, there's a tool over there, let me use it, let me try to see what I can do with that. And it just makes me pretty confused. Anyway, gifted a sub last time and I wasn't there. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew Lane. So the Google Classroom link is below, or at least the code for Google Classroom. You can also hit ! And type in Google Classroom and it should give you the classroom codes you need. There we go. Perfect. All right, what time is it? Tonight we're going to be using our nifty, we've only used the whiteboard like once. We do in fact have a little bit of a whiteboard over here, which is just our fancy iPad. We're going to use it a little bit tonight, so that'll be fun. But yeah, we tonight should, for everyone, like tonight will start to feel like you're really learning some stuff. We'll get our hands on some stuff. Hopefully, we're gonna take it relatively slow, because this can be AWS just offers so many different things. It can be a little bit confusing. So, and we're gonna get hands on and do some stuff as well. Oh, actually, I think I meant to include one more homework assignment for you all, but I think it's in the slides. So we will add it when we get to that point. We'll go ahead and add it in Google Classroom just so you don't forget about it. All right, I think I got everything that I need. All right, let's pull up the slides for today. For anyone who doesn't want to get into the Google Classroom or doesn't care, and just wants the slides, I'll give you a link as usual. What are we doing this one? Yeah. Let's share it out. Oh, actually you can't see Academy view. I always forget now that I got to learn how to, you know, play the broadcast a little bit better, but we'll learn. I'm learning with you guys. Copy link. Let's get this link out to anyone who has it. And so tonight won't be, tonight should be hour and a half, hopefully, maybe a little bit longer, but we should be out of here, give you some time back tonight too. All of the big stuff will start next week. But what we can also do is just take a look at what we're learning next week. What are we learning next week? Next week we are moving on to share responsibility model, and intro to IAM. All right, so this is gonna be good. Next week is gonna feel heavy compared to this week, because what else is after that? And it's more so, it's not gonna be super difficult. The concepts aren't super difficult. There's just a lot of things to remember in them. There's a lot of things to memorize, unfortunately, but there's a fair amount of concepts in there to understand as well. And this one will feel heavy as well, for anyone who's brand new to all of this stuff, but it should be fun. Should definitely be fun. What's up, Marco Shiva? Yeah, yep. There are a lot of people in Slack. There's a lot of people everywhere. It's been pretty interesting. Let me pull up one last thing so that I can just monitor the health of the stream. Make sure I know when I am skipping frames or anything like that. All right, here we go. So tonight we are taking a tour of AWS. We're gonna get set up. We're also gonna set up a text editor. We're talking about text editors and IDEs. Don't be afraid of those things. We're not gonna do an amazing amount with those, but there will be a time during the session where we do that. So we'll get that set up and we'll dive in. So in true pop culture fashion, Leroy Jenkins, let's go. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create an AWS account. I think you can hit exclamation point AWS. I think I set this up. Come on, I did it. So it's gonna take you to the link. This should have been taken care of in the homework if you did it. But again, if not, we are about to do this right now. So let's do this. Let's set one up real quick, and then we'll start talking about the console and the stuff we're diving into. All right, let's hit the link. What was the link? aws.amazon. And obviously I already have an account, but I want to set up a brand new one. I didn't want there to be a bunch of stuff already in there. I want you to be seeing the same thing. I want to be showing the same thing that you're seeing when you get into your account. So we're going to create a new one. So I do, in fact, Academy at, I don't think I'm using this password. No, I'm not going to use suggested because you can see my suggested. So I'll type one in that I can remember. And so the thing is, what's even better about this is we are going to go ahead and we're going to secure this anyway. So there'll be points where I'm actually going to let you see some things that you shouldn't see, just to show you that the security works. And I know somebody may, go crazy and try to hack me, but it's fine. I know enough about AWS. I feel confident enough in my skills to mitigate my my risk. But also AWS is pretty cool. If you ever especially if you're trying to learn, if you ever to do something like shut something down, and you get a bill because you forgot to stop utilizing some resources, they're usually pretty good about just not charging you because they're rich and they make a lot of money. So it's kind of nice. But AWS account name, I'm going to call it Mastermind-Academy is what I'm going to call this. And I'm going to hit continue. And I'll add it because I don't want to forget it. I hope it doesn't overwrite my current one. It's not hacking, it's called training. Exactly. I like that. I love it. Okay. Gonna steal all your S3 buckets. I mean, do what you gotta do, I guess. I have all the ones that I need. So yeah, so I'm gonna say personal right here. I'm gonna say personal. I don't really think the account type matters. I think what they'll try to do for professional though is I think it's easier. I think you get a different level of I think they'll try to start offering you other things, but I think it's for them to just know what your affiliation is. I would say that everyone here should put personal. This is my Google Voice number. Feel free to not call it, but do what you got to do. And this is I don't care if you know my address either. It's publicly available, but we're gonna put in the office address. I do have an office that I stream out of sometimes, which is 8 Marketplace, Baltimore, Maryland, Suite 302. 1202, I think is what we do. No, wait, wrong. Don't pay attention to me. Look at this. This is already the hardest thing I've done today. Maryland is where that is. 21202. I work out of a I generally work out of a co-working space called Spark. It's pretty dope. Yeah, leaked. I don't care. You know, I have a Rottweiler over here. And if you want to steal my address, my address is publicly available elsewhere as well, on some of these things, because it was the original address for this business. So it's all good. It'll be completely fine. But yeah, this is where the office is. This is also public information. So I'm gonna go ahead and create an account under this. They're gonna ask a credit and debit card or debit card number. This is, like I said, the thing that what kind of sucks. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna charge you $1 to make sure that your stuff is valid. But if it is not, you will not be able to do anything. The reason why they require a credit card, I know they try to tell you up top that they have free tier limits. Nothing we do will cost you any money. But if they did not implement a policy like this, the number of spammers and scammers that would be utilizing the free tier and leveraging the free tier to do all kinds of crazy things would be ridiculous. So I completely understand, just because of the ease in which you can spin up infrastructure here. I definitely understand why they do it. So I'm gonna go to the close-up while I enter in my information. You should go ahead and enter in your information. It is safe. It's definitely safe. So I'm gonna enter it. You can't see it. Just double checking. I know you can't see it, but so I generally do this. I usually do this with a ghost card. So there are a number of websites online where you can get ghost cards, and you can like link it to your PayPal or something. A lot of banks also offer services where they'll give you a dummy card, a dummy number, basically. I do recommend those pretty commonly. Yeah, I do recommend those. AWS isn't something, this isn't something where it's going to do any kind of monthly charges or anything like that, or where it's difficult to get out of the billing. Like, it's not like, oh, I got to call this number and to get my credit card off of this thing and cancel the subscription here. It's none of that. Like, you can just pull your stuff out of there. But yeah, just letting you know. New address, that sucks. Let's see. I think this is the address they have. Can't see. I'm sorry, it's boring for you. Yeah, always turn up your instance at Amazon. Is money hungry. So they will bill you for every penny, but like I said, support is super kind. And generally they will give you your money back, or like remove the charge. They won't just charge you. They will take the charge off if you want. All right, so the next thing is going to be a thing to kind of confirm your identity, just to make sure you're a real person and not some type of bot doing this. So you can input your stuff here and run through the security check. I'm going to do that really quick as well. Type it in, type in the security. The voice call is really funny. If you ever do the voice call, it's like a robot voice, and it makes me laugh every single time. If you ever have to do it. Let's see. So I'm just gonna enter the code really quick, and then we'll be in. So that'll be the account setup. Like I said, it's a fairly normal account setup process for anything that you have to pay for. Right now, I guess I can share back. Just waiting for it. Am I getting, yes, you are in fact getting your $1 back. I know, I feel you. All right, just got it. Just got my number. What is it? Hopefully, oh, also, I realized how annoying all the dings were for all the alerts. Hopefully I can still hear them, but hopefully I've made it so that you couldn't hear them. So hopefully it's not bothering you. Yeah, so you probably shouldn't be hearing any of the alerts. I wanted to be alerted to when people joined in. So what's that? Derek and Dragons, welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow, or whatever that last alert was. I don't know because I didn't look up fast enough. But yeah. Can verify I can't hear the perfect. I'm glad you cannot hear the alerts. Yeah, so they like, I think for some people they're fine, but they do get annoying when you are watching back the stuff on either here or on YouTube. So I pulled them out. They still pop up, but the sound isn't there. You know, I think it's better. I do think it's better just to not have them. Also, both Monday's stream and yesterday's stream are available for you on YouTube as well. Well, yesterday's stream I said we processing, but it's up there, so if you want to check it out. Okay, so here we go. Now we have the select a support plan. This is a new thing. This is not something that's been around for long, but they basically give you some options for support. AWS has their own, obviously, team of support in case you need any help with anything, and their support is pretty good. But right now you just need the free tier. You don't want to pay any money unless you really feel like you need something else. Get the free tier and you're all good. Now this is new as well. You can personalize your experience. You know, you can select your role. Don't worry about that right now. Just go ahead and sign into the console, and then use the information that you created to set this up. So I did academy.mastermind, academy at mastermind.io. My password. All right, so I know you saw on the last screen it said, do you want to log in as the root user or an IAM user? You're going to learn a little about the differences between those. You cannot log in as an IAM user to start. You have to log in as a root user first. What does that mean? Security is at the forefront of AWS. I'm not saying it's the most secure thing in the world, but they do focus on security at a lot of different places. You usually have to allow things to happen explicitly inside of AWS. So as the now that I've set up an account, I'm the account owner. I'm the root user of the entire account. I have full control of everything. Generally, you don't want anyone logging in as that user. You only want to use that user again for high level orchestration of your AWS account or accounts. You can have multiple AWS accounts under what's called an organization. We'll talk about those organizations, but that root account is all you're going to want to do. I mean, it's not something you're going to want to log in with. IAM users, which you're going to want, but you're going to learn about that a little bit later. Just Machine. Your sister works at Fearless. Dope. That's what's up. I wonder who your sister is. Or did you say in here? Well, I will asking me account ID or account alias. Okay, so if it's asking you for an account ID or an account alias, it's going to be whatever that account name you made was. The last line, it was like username, password, and like account name. Oh, Sarah, that's dope. Oh yeah, she told me you'll be tuning in. That's dope. Welcome to the channel. But yes, once you so that'll be your user. You can also like do like the password reset thing. It'll probably send you a message, but I think you can use I think you could actually use, like, if I log out, I'm gonna log out really quick and I'm gonna sign back in. Yeah, you should be, as root user, you should just be able to do that. Actually, I saved this, didn't I? Give me this. There we go. Give me what I need. I'm lazy. There we go. I don't want to type. Yes, you sign in as root user for now. We will change that. So once you're logged in, you are now in the AWS Management Console. This is the console. It's commonly referred to as the console, and we have slides to talk about the console. The console, it is a web-based, so based on the web, GUI. So we're just throwing some tech terms at you. Write it down, save it for later if you need to, but GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. So graphics is something that you can see. We'll see why that's important in a second, but it's for managing your AWS account and all of the resources inside of it. What are those resources? Those are those computing resources, those storage devices, those compute units, those all of the things that you're going to be utilizing an AWS, you can use this console, this web-based GUI, to be able to go through and manage those things. Unfortunately, it is not very intuitive. It has terrible UX. It has a terrible user experience. It is not intuitive at all. You will get confused. There's a lot of pieces to it, a lot of moving pieces to it. You don't need to memorize it, but just know that the way one service or something works may not be the way another service works, and it can be very, very confusing. Yes, we are completely using free tier stuff. We're using free stuff. But it is a terrible user experience. Like, it may look okay to you right now, like it may look fine, like it's not, I don't think it's ugly, it just doesn't work very well, and that's what you need. But again, the reason why that is if I click services, look at all these things you just have in here that you can do. They all operate differently. They all have tons of options. Pretty confusing, but we're about to go through a tour of that. So services. So the main thing that you care about inside of AWS is the services. This is the offering to you. What services do they have? So currently AWS has 175 services, and they're growing all the time. They announce new services fairly often. They run a big what's the thing called? I go to it every year, not every year, but I've been to it a few times. What's the word I'm looking for? Conference. That's bad. Conference. Oh man, my brain. They run a big conference every year called AWS reInvent. They run it in Vegas. It is a pretty extravagant event. It's pretty dope. And that's where they usually announce a lot of their, more cutting edge services. But they're constantly making updates to services throughout the year. And so things change very, very often. So it can be confusing, but usually they're pretty good services. The reason they have so many services and the reason they move so fast and make so many different changes is that they do listen to their users. I mean, mostly they're big users, but whether that's good or bad, they kind of implement the things that'll keep people paying for their services. Sometimes they don't really think them out. They're good ideas, but they don't think them out in a grand scale. They just implement them so people can start utilizing them, not really thinking about how they fit into AWS. But again, there's something for everybody here. But the services can be used like Legos to build what you need. So this is where things differ from more traditional computing or non-cloud computing. Traditional computing, you get your servers. They have everything you need. They have all the resources. They have the CPU and the RAM and all the stuff, and that's what you have to operate with. And you install what you need, and you install the software and you configure things in the way that you need. Cloud computing, these services, you pick and choose the little pieces, the little blocks. You want the red block that can connect, that has little 4 connectors at the top, or you want the little green one that can connect 2, or you want the long block. It's like Legos or Tetris, and you grab the pieces that you need and you build out the solution that you want. And again, it's also a pay-as-you-go, pay for what you use, payment paradigm. So yeah, you're not charged until after you use this stuff. The billing aggregates over the month, and you only pay for what you use. What you use might be sometimes, depending on what the service is, it can be for the amount of time you're using it. Sometimes you'll pay by the hour. Sometimes you'll pay for bandwidth, so the amount of data that's transferred between services and through the internet. Sometimes you'll be paid for the amount of data that's being stored. So there's a number of ways to calculate those things. Sometimes it's a combination of a bunch of them, which can be confusing. We will cover all of those things as we hit new services. But this is the thing that you care about the most. So let's take a tour of those services. There are a bunch of them. Let's take a tour and kind of take a look through the console, get comfortable with the console, and see how these things are kind of laid out. So any questions before we start to take the tour on any of the things that we just talked about with services or the console? Let me see if I missed anything. I'm stuck on this root or IAM page. It's root, Sean from LA. You should be choosing root. So after we set some things up, you won't choose the root user. You shouldn't yeah, the root user isn't the user you're going to generally want to log in with. It's fine. It is fine. I would say most individual people are probably logging in as the root user. Again, it's fine. But what I want to teach you is how you're going to be using this within an organization. An organization, you don't want anybody logging in as that root user. They kind of have God level control over your account. That's not what you want. Yeah, you want them to be logging in as a user with less privileges than the root user. But we'll be learning about that next time, I think. Yes, the slides are in the Google Classroom. They are there. Perfect. Glad you're in. All right. So this tour that we're going to take, generally they keep the same look and feel for the most part across most things. Now it is tough to do. I gotta give them credit. Like, it's hard to do. They all these services and tools, they're being built and operated on by different teams. So I understand why like things are different. There's also technical implications, underlying technical implications that keep things from being the same. But I don't know, it doesn't make it any easier. So this is what you'll get dropped into. You'll see this. I don't think I've ever used anything on this page besides maybe this find a service box, but I usually use the services thing up here. You can see you have 2 places to do the exact same thing. See all the services here, 3 places really. Look at that. Services, I can search for the services. I can also search for the services right here, and then I can also see all services right here. That seems like a lot of weird stuff going on there, but this is the core of what they do, is their services. So then it looks like it has some options down here to build out a solution. So if you kind of don't know what you want to do, maybe it'll help you if you click through one of these things. It looks like it's going to take you through a little bit of a workflow. Now, services, these are important. Let's take a look at all of the services and take a tour. We talked about those computing resources. These are resource categories. All of these services fall into a number of resource categories. These resource categories are the bold thing at the top with the icon next to it. And so the first section we have is compute. From the things that we talked about, these are going to be the things where you're utilizing some type of processor, CPU. You're going to be crunching data. Now, each of these services inside of here, that's the main thing that you're mostly going to be charged for. You're going to be charged mostly primarily for that compute time, but all these services may incorporate more computing things than those compute than just the CPU. They contain other resources besides that, but their primary purpose is to do some processing. And we're going to talk about what all these things are. They kind of do a good job of listing the most important services first. So EC2 is like one of their cornerstone services. It's what you think of when you think of a computer or a server or a virtual machine. EC2 it stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. We'll learn about that next week, but EC2 is pretty important here. Lightsail is a VPC service, but all of these, they may solve the same problem. There's a lot of services you can use. Like, I could do the same thing with Lightsail that I could do with EC2, but Lightsail has some limitations. EC2 is more expensive and it's more flexible for some things. So it really takes some time to get to know these services and to know how to, deal with each one, or which one fits the job the right way. It takes a while to pick those things up. So that's the first service category, which is compute. They had a bunch of stuff here. Lambda's really cool. We are going to do a serverless lab. I think we're going to do a serverless lab here. It might not be until the intermediate one. But this is like, I don't know if you've heard the buzzword serverless, but it's basically where you don't care about the computer. You just give Amazon some code and they'll run it for you for the most part. But there's just a lot of cool little things in here. Batch, I think this is for processing, batch jobs. So easily run batch computing workloads. So if you need to process, things in batches, process workloads, you can use batch. Elastic Beanstalk is, it's a service for helping developers spin up web applications quickly. I'm actually surprised that's underneath compute, but yeah, but you don't need to memorize all these. And that's the first thing I want to tell you. There's 175 or something like that, 170 plus. You do not need to memorize all of them. We will cover the main ones, and as you go through the course, we'll cover the cornerstone ones. But like I said, they have an application or they have a service to help everybody. But then you move on from compute and you get to containers. So these are things, I don't know if you've ever heard of Docker or Kubernetes. That's where this lies. Containers are a big thing. We will learn a little bit about containers here, but not a lot. We won't dive too deep into it at all. Then we have storage. So remember, this is the hard drive piece of it, the SSDs, the storage. So S3 is a very, very important service inside of AWS. If you've been to the academy.mastermind.io website, that is actually hosted at S3. You might say, oh, how is, why is a website, how is it hosted inside of a storage device? We will talk about that, but it's pretty dope. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service. Another reason why their UX is terrible is their service name. Their nomenclature is awful. It's really bad. I hate it. It's not good. There's some things that are, these acronyms, but other things are, have nice little names. I'm not sure why they did that. They use the word cloud way too much. There's Cloud Trail and Cloud Formation and Cloud Watch, but naming things is hard. This is something that Microsoft does much better than AWS. Their things are called like virtual machine or functions or things like that. So it's kind of nice, like database. It makes sense. But container section, I think you have your storage stuff here. You have your database stuff here. So a bunch of different database options. And again, it takes time to learn what problems would warrant the differences between these databases. RDS is the most common database service that you're probably familiar with, which is a relational database. So it stands for Relational Database Service. It allows for things like MySQL or Postgres, things that have relational data in them. And it's a fully managed service. We'll talk about managed services versus unmanaged services tonight, actually. But so like, that serves one thing, whereas DynamoDB is their own custom built, highly scalable, NoSQL database or key value store. So that's one thing. And there's Elasticache and all these different tools that do similar things but solve different problems. They have different strengths and weaknesses. They also all cost different amounts of money. Then you have your migration and transfer section. This is for tools and services that help people either migrate data in or out of AWS or migrate their infrastructure to AWS. These are all nice tools that allow you to do that. One of the ones that's super interesting is that Snowball is an actual physical device that they'll send out to you. It's a little like briefcase thing, but it gets big enough to where they'll actually ship AWS Snowmobile. I think it's called Snowmobile. Yeah, Snowmobile. AWS, for some companies, they have so much data, they'll actually ship you a refrigerated truck that has servers and things that you can literally plug into your data center and transfer the data to it. It'll drive from your data center and drive it to Amazon and plug it back in there and get all your data into the cloud. So it's pretty interesting. This is how big and crazy AWS is. And there are companies that do in fact have enough data to do these things. Later we will need access to the Google form you sent out for quiz 1. So weird. Some people saying they have access to it. Some people are saying they didn't. We'll definitely get that knocked out for sure. Okay. So Snowball is actually like I said, it's like a little briefcase to do the same thing. So if you're somewhere, you can imagine that some organizations, their data is pretty important and needs to be kept secure, or they might have, or you need to move a lot of data, and sometimes your internet speeds, the uplink to AWS might not be super fast. You need to move a lot of data. Snowball is an actual physical device that will allow you to, they'll ship it to you, plug it in again, move all your data to it, ship it back to Amazon, and Amazon will put it into their servers for you. So no, it's pretty cool. It's an interesting solution to a problem. Interesting solution to a problem for sure. Like to have actual hardware as a service basically is pretty interesting. None of the other storage services are all that interesting. Let's go back. Where were we? Yeah. Oh, that was migration and transfer. Yeah. So all of those things allow you to do that. Networking content delivery, very important. So this is all, we said that the cloud was networked, a set of networked computing resources, geographically distributed network computing resources. So networks are pretty important. The only way that these things can talk or speak to each other is via networks. Amazon's underlying network is super robust, super fast. Data transfer speeds internally to AWS's network are great, but you also have to do some networking to allow your services and things that you get. You have to allow them to be able to speak to each other as well. So these are a number of networking tools that allow you to do some great things inside of Amazon. We'll learn a little bit about those. Developer tools. So all of the companies now are attempting to be a one-stop shop. What these developer tools do is they allow you to manage both code and the workflow to get that code out into the systems that they need to be on. So they actually have Cloud9, which is an actual online editor. So remember when I said you could do, like, if you're on a Chromebook, you could do all the stuff that we're doing? Or today, when we start talking about text editors, even if you just don't even want to deal with it, AWS Cloud9, so this used to be a company called cloud9.io, I think. I guess they might have shut this site off. Cloud9.gg. Oh, okay. Well, there used to be, not them. Cloud9 was an online text editor. So you can go in, you can modify code, edit code, do your whole development workflow there. This is the same thing. They bought it, they incorporated it into Amazon. Now, what's so great about this is because it's already integrated into Amazon, it gives you immediate access to Amazon's tools. So things like this code commit and code build. So if you've ever heard of something like GitHub, they have their, like, code commit is basically a code repository, and code build is a CI pipeline to build up your tools and deploy. So basically this just allows developers to build applications and push them to where they need to go. So that's what the developer tools thing is. Again, whether or not these services are great is to be determined by you. Right now, we are not trying to, we're not doing reviews on the services. We are simply learning what they do. And again, I'm right now, I'm just giving you a high level overview. You should not be trying to memorize all the stuff right now. Just pay attention to these service categories. Really, just kind of start to keep in mind the types of service categories that exist. We will touch the tools that we need to. If I say something that I'm hoping, I'm just kind of spitballing to hopefully throw something across your plate that you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, and maybe that'll stick. But no need to memorize these things. Customer enablement, never used anything inside of here. Oh yes, I have. Support, sure. All right, great. That's a section. Robotics, if you're into robotics, AWS RoboMaker, I've heard cool things about that. We've got some blockchain stuff, and I think there's some blockchain stuff at the top as well, if you're someone who might be interested in getting into the blockchain. Satellite, I have no idea what ground station is. I don't know what satellite is. Command and control satellites and downlink data using the cloud. Look at that. Would you look at that? They allow you to do some dope stuff with satellites. Like I said, they have a service for everything. They probably built this for a single high paying consumer, one customer that pays them a lot of money. They probably built this just for them. But yeah, you can do so much stuff, like quantum technologies. Look, I have no idea what this is either. Amazon Bracket is in preview. Okay, so it's not available to everyone, but it sounds like you can get access to quantum technologies. Quantum computing is very interesting. I would highly recommend, if you are, especially if you're taking the computer science the decoded course, if you're diving into how computers work and it's something that you're interested in, we talk about bits and bytes and binary. Go understand that first, and then go read about quantum computing and what quantum technologies are. And it's a little bit of a mind bend. I get it, but like at the same time, it's like, how? It's pretty interesting. But yeah, so you can check that out, I guess. Management and governance. So this is a big section, and this is a big section because with the way the cloud works, with the availability of things, management and governance is super important. So these are going to be the things that allow you to keep your accounts and things in order. They're gonna be the things that help you stay compliant. Even though there's compliance over here, these are going to be the things that help you confirm you're compliant, that help you the tools that are going to help you stay compliant, the things that are going to help you stay safe as well. So there's a bunch of tools in here, and there are a lot of important tools in here. A lot of important tools like Cloud Watches, where you can go to set up some observability. So if you want to see logs and graphs and things about the way your services are operating, and to be able to make some decisions about them, CloudWatch is that, and CloudTrail checks for, it's a logging service that monitors all the API calls made to your AWS account. So if some weird things are happening and you're not sure where they're coming from, CloudTrail can help you figure that out. So there's some cool stuff in here. Media services, you're doing things with media. You need to transcode video, convert video. You need to stream stuff. Media services will help you out with that. We've got machine learning, so tons of stuff with machine learning, because machine learning is super hot right now. SageMaker is pretty dope. It's something to help you build, train, and deploy machine learning models, but I think it makes it pretty easy for you to do it with. Is Deep Racer on here? Yeah, AWS Deep Racer is pretty dope. They actually have competitions for this, but AWS Deep Racer, let's go global. Everything I'm doing right now is going to come up soon, but Deep Racer is actually a remote control car that you control. You run it through some training models, and you do your best to get it to run around a course. They have a whole deep racing league, and now I have to go to YouTube because it's pretty interesting. It's harder than you think to have it's got like a little camera on the front. Deep Racer League, and basically people, there's like full fights for this, full competitions, and they do their best to train this car to be able to go around the courses by itself. And it's a pretty interesting thing to watch, but it's also designed to help people get into machine learning and start to understand those concepts. So yeah, it's pretty dope. So you can buy one yourself, $350. I'm considering it, actually. Like I'm not yet, I didn't yet want to dive into machine learning and AI, machine learning, all that stuff, but one day I'm planning on doing it. So I don't know, maybe sooner than later. I'm waiting for them to come out with like a V2 or something. But okay, where was I? Oh yeah, I was here. Keep getting lost. Let's just go back here and talk about the last few service categories, because there's so many. Machine learning, analytics, which is dope. Athena is amazing. We're gonna do some stuff with Athena, but a lot of cool stuff in analytics, again, to gather information, to be able to make decisions, to be able to get some insight onto things that are going on. A lot of cool things. Kinesis is super dope. Yeah, a lot of cool services in here. But again, look how under a category like analytics, they provide you so many different things that you could choose. Like, how would you ever know what to use. And this is why people pay so much for cloud engineers or people who know the cloud. This is why it's valuable for executives to understand what's going on with the cloud. This is why it's valuable for product managers and project managers to understand like at a high level at least how the cloud works and what's going on, because there's just so many options, and like getting it wrong can cost you a lot of money, or getting it wrong can make it so that your application doesn't operate nearly as efficiently as it could, which then again makes you lose a lot of money. It can cost you a lot of money. So this is why it's important, and this is why this course there are a lot of concepts. There's a lot of computing concepts that we'll have to go over. There's a lot of like paradigms you have to learn, like different deployment strategies and things like that. But there's also a lot of just like, just get familiar, like spend some time getting familiar with the services, and you now know more than 60% of the population if you just spend some time understanding the differences between some of these services, and not even all of them, just some of the major ones. You'd be surprised at how effective that is at getting you a job. But cool. Then we got a lot of stuff on security, identity, and compliance. So security is important, tons of stuff on this. IAM is by far the most important, and we will dive into that starting Monday. But yeah, a lot of really cool stuff in here for security, identity, and compliance. Cost management. Costs are pretty important. We've already been worried about the dollar they stole from us. We want to make sure that we know how much we're being charged when you're doing pay as you go. I want to make sure you know how much you're being charged, but you also want to be able to budget, and you want to be able to get things easily. So yeah, that's what this section is for. They do provide you a number of things to make sure you're not going over budget. There's a lot of insight into they give you immediate projections on like where you'll be at the end of the month based on your current usage. So there's a lot of tools available for you to work with that. And that again, that in itself is huge. Being able to properly manage costs within an AWS environment, and the more you know the services inside of it, the better it'll help you to be able to manage those costs. Then they got some stuff for mobile. I actually don't know what any of these things do. I think the device farm allows you to test Android, iOS, and web apps on real devices in the cloud. Look at that. They have a way for you to go in and test your applications on real devices that are in the cloud. Excellent. Amazing. AR, VR. So AR is very big. AR, VR is very big. This is augmented reality and virtual reality. Super hot topics right now. So Sumerian is a tool to help you develop, I believe, tools and games and all that stuff for AR and VR. Pretty sure. Oh, okay. My device is not compatible. So if you're interested in stuff like that, there are tools for that. Let's go back. We're almost done with the tour. I know this stuff isn't super fun. Application integration. So these are different things that allow you to integrate pieces of application together, or tools that are good to integrate into common applications. This one right here, simple notification service. Could be wrong. Don't quote me, but I believe this was Amazon's very first service. Pretty sure. Either SNS or SQS, I believe, but it was their very first service. But yeah, just a bunch of different tools. Again, a lot of messaging. This is a messaging service, just like SNS. Oh, not like SNS, but a messaging service. This is like SQS actually. But yeah, customer engagement. Don't know. Oh, so this is an actual email service. So if you ever want to set up your own email server, you no longer need to. You can use their email service, which is not bad. We use it. It's not bad at all. Then you got stuff like Alexa for Business. Amazon Chime is a video chat service. So something like Zoom. This is a Zoom competitor or a Skype competitor that they have. And then Workspaces. So Workspaces is cool because Workspaces is a virtual desktop for you. So you can actually spin up it's kind of like Cloud9, but like for an actual desktop. Like if I wanted like a Windows desktop, you could actually give your whole team, instead of buying them computers, you could give them Amazon Workspaces and use those virtual machines as their computers. Then And then we got things like IoT things, so Internet of Things. This is things like smart home devices, like your smart thermostat, like that temperature reader outside of your house, the smart mirrors, all the smart products in your house, the hue lights, all that stuff. IoT devices, that's what these things do. But yes, you see all this. And then game development, Amazon's Game Lift. I've seen this thing in action. It's pretty cool. It's a service to allow you to spin up servers and services for like online games pretty easily. It's pretty cool, but they have something for everyone. And again, that is why it has such a big market share. Basically they took the momentum that they had because they were kind of first to the game, and they just kept building things people could use. And again, I think they know that the things aren't all amazing, like their products aren't all amazing, but if you're already ingrained in AWS, if I already have a substantial amount of infrastructure in AWS, or even just one thing in AWS, it's going to be much easier for me to just integrate with their other services. Their services play well together. They work well together. It's very easy to get them to work together. And so I'm probably going to stay and use the tool that they have here that's going to make it easy for me. Whether or not it's the best, I'm probably going to use it. It's that vendor lock-in. It's the same thing that Apple does, you know, get you in good with one of the products, one or two of the products, and like you're going to stay for the ecosystem. People stay for the ecosystem. That's Amazon's whole, that's their whole deal. That's every cloud provider's whole deal. So that's the tour. There's nothing really to like. I encourage you to click around and something. Let's like click in a couple of the premier services so you can see how different the experience is. So this is the new Ec2 console. I guess they change up the UX pretty often. So this is what it used to look like. This is what a lot of people are used to. And so this is the new one. I've never used a new one, to be honest. And so you can see, look how much just stuff is in here. Like, look how much, like how people pay you to know this stuff, to know what's going on here. I like the questions about the regions and AZs right now. We're about to talk about those very, very soon. And that's why I didn't say anything about when I had to click out of here to get to the certain service, because we're gonna loop back on that. But yeah, like people pay you. This is all one service. It's all singular service. So there's a lot of things that can be included in a singular service. I know it looks super complicated, but you'd be surprised at how fast you can understand the things. And then if we go to like S3 is going to look completely different. It's going to have way different options, way less options, and the layout is different. And then if we go into something like CloudWatch, this is probably going to look a little more like EC2 maybe. With a bunch of stuff over here, but just like look how many like words and letters are on each page. Like it is overwhelming. It's completely okay for you to be overwhelmed by the amount of stuff here. It's completely okay. You should be overwhelmed by the amount of stuff here, but we'll get through it. What's up, Stormblast? What's up, Kevin Evans? Kevin Evans. That's hard to say. Much harder to say than I expected. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follows. But yes, so click around, take a look at something that you may, I don't know, if you're, you say, hey, I've always wanted to do, something with machine learning. Click in there and see what those things are. Like, you don't need to necessarily, like, be careful. I wouldn't willy-nilly spin up services because you don't know how much they cost. But usually you have to click through a few steps to do that. But like, usually it'll give you a welcome page and tell you what you can do with these things. But there's just so many services. So I don't know, maybe after this, take some time, click around, see what you got. But we're gonna focus in this course on a lot of the core services. These are gonna be things like EC2. And we're going to focus on like one or two services out of each of the categories. So EC2 and IAM, you can see here how they're at the top. That's because they're core services. We're going to talk about things like CloudWatch and S3 and maybe a little bit about EFS, RDS for sure, DynamoDB. Like there's some core services that if you search around, it's easy to find. VPC we'll talk about a lot. CloudFront we'll talk about. Route 53. Actually, a lot of these networking things we'll talk about in here, but we'll dive into all of them. But yeah, that's the tour. That takes us right to 8 o'clock. That's perfect. Let's take a little break. Let's take a little break and we'll go into the next part. We're gonna now that you've seen the console, you've seen this graphical user interface that you can use to manage all of your resources, all of your things inside of AWS. We're going to learn a little bit about some other ways to access AWS, because there are other ways to do it besides just the console. But you can in fact do just about everything via the console. Well, yeah, I got to get the water, you know. It's not I don't have any LaCroix today. I still haven't gotten out to the store. Take this opportunity, a little stretch break. Oh yeah, oh, that feels good. Coding Garden, I don't know if you're on, but I'm gonna have to steal your stretch break timer from you one day because it's pretty cool. Yeah, I need to steal your I like your little stretch break timer. Because I definitely need to stretch and get up. I'm gonna get a standing desk again. I'm kind of missing mine, so I actually really like to stand up while I stream. It allows me to be a little more animated with my hands, you know, and I feel a little less restricted, for sure. It's for Mac. Okay, I'll have to find an alternative, I guess, but that's cool. I'm sure there are a million of them. Class platform. Oh, perfect. Stretchly. That is the one I will check out. Thank you very much. Autonomous.io is autonomous. That's where the standing desks and stuff are, right? I think I found them. Autonomous.io. I spelled autonomous wrong, as of course I would. Oh man, why didn't it autocorrect? That, you know what? That is what we need. We need an auto-correcting, no, because then people can't find my website. But I was gonna say we need an auto-correcting plugin for your search bar, for your address bar. That would be cool. That would be pretty dope. I asked if you could post the AWS training pathway again. Yeah, I need to. I'm still trying to put it on the site. I need to put it on the site. I need to clean out some of these things. Like I have like a bunch of notes in here, so I don't want to give the link for this. But I wanted to post just the link on the website. But you can look at it for a second. I'll get it up. It'll be up before Monday. I'm gonna take some time on probably Friday to kind of get all that stuff up and running. But yeah, this is for the next couple weeks. Again, EC2, we're gonna dive heavily into EC2, build stuff on it. Pretty dope. We're gonna see it in action. That's gonna be pretty fun. Like from CCP. Oh, from the certifications. Yeah. Let's see. AWS certifications. Oh my gosh, my typing has gotten worse. It's better sometimes, but it's like gotten worse when you guys are watching me. I'll post the link here. Here you go. Oh yeah, I like the questions thing. I do like the questions thing. One thing I do want to know. I'm gonna put a poll in here really quick. I want to know what platform people are using. Like, are you using Windows, Mac, or Linux? What OS are you using? And let's go Windows, Mac, and Linux. I'll give you 1 minute. Pretty interesting. It helps a little bit on what to focus on. And we're doing this one too. I want to know what level people are at. Yesterday we checked to see, you know, people who are completely fresh and never done anything in the industry, people with like 0 to 1 years of experience, just kind of getting in and learning a little bit, where like you may not know this stuff, but like when we talk about certain things, you're not all the way out, or people who are advanced. Okay. Linux check-in. I know only 2 Linux users. This hurts my heart a little bit. But I mean, nowadays they all do just fine. And so it doesn't matter what platform you're on for this at all. Just wondering. And then we'll do one more. All right, so Windows is got the victory there. And then we'll do one more poll. We'll do, what is your technical level of technical experience. I have too much stuff over here. So let's say none, exclamation point. This one, we won't do it by years. We're gonna say a bit, comma, but not much. And say, I know my way around computer. Oh, they limit your characters. I'll take off the W. So it's just K and O. CPU. I work in tech. Mid-level. I'm giving you a lot of options this time. I'm a pro, bro. What's up with that? Oh, Purple Shadow, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, you're always, yo, your support, I appreciate it. That's why you're a VIP. I'm a pro, bro. All right, start poll real quick. Just want to know your level of experience. Candy Crush OS, I like it. 20 years in the IT telecom space. That's dope. That's a long time. That's a really long time. So make sure you click that you're a pro, because you're definitely a pro. It's out the way. Yeah. That should have been an option. That should have been an option to find out who had degrees and things like that, because it's pretty interesting. Can you please review the potential salaries based on certain experience? Yeah, we can definitely do that. Shay, we'll definitely remind me. We're gonna run through the next part pretty quickly. We're gonna have some time for sure. That's why I'm kind of taking the break now. We'll have some time. We're definitely gonna go through potential salaries. That's a good thing we can go through today. All right, cool. Okay, a good mix. This is a really good mix. Yeah, this is a really good mix. Okay, this will be good for everyone then. The chats do in fact appear in the YouTube video. They do. But yeah, these are AWS certs. We definitely should talk through this. I'm gonna leave this up so that I don't forget. All right. So now that we've done that, let's talk about the acronym soup that is AWS, but also that is these two other things. So the console is cool and all, but the true power in the cloud is that it can be accessed and controlled programmatically. And this can be done in two ways. The two ways are the Amazon, these are done through SDKs, which are software development kits, and the CLI, which is the command line interface. There are a few other tools that fall into this, but I think they both fall under SDKs. I think they all fall under SDKs to me, and we'll be going over those things. But you'll also realize that there's a lot of acronyms in the AWS for AWS services, so it can be pretty confusing. So don't stress. Do your best to try to memorize these things. But what we're going to talk about is one, programmatic access to AWS is very important. What does that mean? Programmatic access means that you can access these things through code, through an automated method, and so that's where this becomes powerful. Why is that? Again, it's for automation reasons. It's for management reasons. People make mistakes. Human error is a big thing. If you can codify these things, if you can set up ways for a computer to do these things instead of you, it is great. It helps a lot. Yeah, I like that. I like that you do Terraform in there. But SDKs, what are SDKs? So SDKs are written. So first, let's talk about we learned what the cloud is. Is as a thing, but what it really is as a technology is actually not that. It's not that hard of a concept to understand. It's actually just a bunch of computers, so a bunch of servers in a data center. We'll look at pictures of data centers and stuff, but all it is those servers, that hardware is a bunch of hardware and networks with a layer of software over top of them called an API. So it's got an API layer that stands for Application Programming Interface, that allows you to interact with the hardware underneath it. And they've just written this layer of software that can, do different things. And basically, you're just interfacing constantly with the API. Even when you're logged in to here, you're actually just interfacing with Amazon's API. The API does all of the work. So you're just interacting with a piece of software. These software development kits allow someone to allow a developer to write code using the language they like. So each language has a different SDK, has a different software development kit that you can use to use that language to interact with AWS. So if I wanted to grab the Python SDK, I could go in and I could download this and import this into my project, and I could use those tools. This software development kit just has tools inside of it that allow you to easily be able to interface again with AWS. So that's one cool way to do things. We will probably not do anything with any SDKs in this beginner course, but just I do want you to be aware of the two ways that you can access AWS programmatically, and these SDKs are one way. Yeah, and I think these are all the SDKs that you can use right here. So I think you have to use one of these languages to interact with Amazon, and I'll share this here. Azure for life, Microsoft Shields rise up. Hey, I'm not an Azure hater at all, not even a little bit. I like Azure for sure. But that's the page. So yeah, so these are cool. If you do not know how to program, if you don't have any coding experience, learning how to use these will be pretty complicated. I wouldn't recommend let me Google and see how I use one of these SDKs. It'll be very confusing for you. There's a simpler way for you to access these things, and so there's documentation on how to use these things. But yeah, SDKs are one way, software development kits, and then the other one is the AWS CLI, so command line interface. That is something good to know. The reason I wrote GUI before, so the console is a GUI, a graphical user interface. You'll hear this a lot in computing. That's what a GUI is. Anything where you can kind of see and click around and there are visuals is a GUI. But the CLI, the command line interface, is where you're going to interact with Amazon from the command line instead. So you've probably seen on your computer the command prompt if you're on Windows, or PowerShell even, if you're on Linux or Mac. On Mac, your terminal, same thing on Linux, your terminal. This is your command line. This is actually an interface for you to submit commands to your computer, for your computer to process, for you to control it. You can actually control most aspects, if not all aspects of your computer, from the command line. Really, the things that you're doing from the GUI are usually executing commands underneath. They are executing commands underneath in the command line to kind of, in the shell, to be able to do the things that you need to do. And so again, that looks like you saw me hop into here yesterday. Like I said, if you're on Mac or Linux, you can type in terminal and bring that up. Or if you are on Windows, you can hop into the command prompt and I can issue commands into here. So like if you see me type in something like ls, it lists a bunch of things. Ls just means list, and you can see I have desktop and documents and downloads, and I have a Firefox wallpaper here, and I have music and pictures. What all that's doing is this is just listing the files in a directory. So if I actually go, I'm in this home directory, and you can actually see, so this shouldn't be showing things that are hidden. Oops, no hidden files. So if I do this, you can see that the stuff that's in here actually matches up quite nicely with what's right here. And again, that's simply because this command line interface is simply a place to control your computer. You're controlling the same computer that you're clicking around here. You're controlling it from here instead. So that's all the command line interface is. It's not scary. Like, Yes, it can be intimidating, but it's really like me clicking into my documents. So if I click into documents, same thing you do on your computer every day, you go into your documents. On the command line, I would just go like this. And now I'm in my documents directory. And now I can see all the stuff that's in my documents right here. And maybe it'll be easier. I usually never type ls, so this is like bothering me a little bit. But if I click in here, now you can see like I have an apps directory, which matches up with this, and apps.txt, which matches up here. So that's all it is. That's all it is. Not super complicated. It takes a while to learn how to navigate the command line, you know, quickly and effectively, but that's all the command line is. You're just controlling the computer via commands rather than clicking around inside of the GUI, the graphical user interface. So yes, that is what the CLI is. So the AWS CLI will allow us to interact with Amazon from here. So it allows us to interact with Amazon from here. And actually, I don't think I have it installed. I do have it installed. Cool. So here's what we're gonna do. Your homework, I don't think I put it in there. I will put it in there, is I want you to install the AWS CLI. I am going to go ahead and show you how to install it really quick. It's super easy now. It used to be a little bit of a pain. It's actually very easy if you're on Windows. It used to be a little bit of a pain on Mac and Linux, but that's no longer the case. So I'll send you a link for it. And like I said, I'll get this in as a homework assignment. We won't be doing much with this. Well, I'm going to actively, you don't need to know this stuff to pass the certified cloud practitioners exam. You don't need to know the command line interface. It's not something you need to know, but it will be something that you need to know to pass. There are things from it that you'll need to know to pass the associate level exams, and it's just good things to know. So as we're doing things in the console, as we're doing things in here, I'm also going to show you how to do some of those things from the command line, so that anyone who's interested can kind of start to play around and understand how that interaction is different. So to install it, it used to be pretty tough actually, because you'd have to install. So you can see there's a bunch of crap here about Python, and it's a Python tool, and you would have to download, make sure you had the right version of Python and the right version of pip, which is a package manager in Python, and you have to use pip to install this, and it's super weird, and I don't know, it was always a hassle. You no longer need to do that because so you can do that if you want to install version 1, but they do in fact have an AWS CLI version 2. So AWS CLI V2. If you're on Mac, you can in fact use brew to install AWS CLI if you want, but it does install an older, like it always installed an older version for me. And AWS CLI version 2 is really nice. Why is it nice? All it is a singular executable that can just run. You don't have to worry about installing all the stuff. So look, check this out. We go to, don't worry about prerequisites. We go to install. It gives you, if you're on Linux, it gives you 3 things here. You run these 3 things, 1, 2, and 3. You run these 3 things from the command line. AWS will be installed for you. That's all you have to do. If you are on a different platform, so you can also do this if you are on Windows and you're running the Windows subsystem for Linux. Feel free to also go in and do these 3 commands as well. Super simple for you. What's up, Cyber Barbie? Cyber Barbie, I think, is a VIP here. Good to see you. Thank you so much for the raid. I'm going to give people a few seconds to get through the pre-roll, stuff. But it's good to have you. Cyber Barbie was just streaming. She does some pretty dope stuff. She's going through I think, are you going Code Academy or Free Code Camp? I think you're going through Code Academy, learning some Python stuff right now. So I definitely advise, especially the people who are running through Decoded. I think she's actually running through and doing problems and things in there. So I recommend checking her out. I appreciate the raid for sure. Unable to add VIP. I think you're already a VIP. I think that's the problem. So welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody from the Cyber Barbie channel. Good to have you. What's the Rainbow Rock? I have no idea. Is that a custom emote? That's pretty cool. That's definitely pretty cool. We're supposed to be doing something on the console. Not yet. We're not. Can you run that back? I had some lag issues. What part do you want me to run back? What do you have questions about? But so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna show you, like, so you're comfortable. Like, I'm literally gonna copy and paste these things. I'm literally gonna copy and paste them. On Windows, I think you can just see over here on the left, you can choose what you want. Mine's on Linux. It determines what you have via your browser. But I think if you have Mac, they might give you an installer. Yeah, it looks like, okay, they give you an installer on Mac now. So that should be pretty easy if you're running Mac. A lot of people are running Mac. And on Windows, they give you an installer. So Windows, you don't gotta run none of that stuff. You can just download this installer right here and run through, and you can click it. How do I get the command line user interface in AWS? So, oh, this is so you can head here. I didn't give you the link. That's my bad. Head here. And if you're on Mac or Windows, I would recommend using the installer here. Make sure you're looking at AWS CLI version 2, not version 1 right now. Yeah, I highly recommend version 2 right now. So yeah, but if you're on Linux, a few people are on Linux. I always assume the people running Linux probably already are comfortable running these 3 commands. But if not, this is a command to download the package. So it's going to download a zip file for you from the internet, and then it's going to unzip it. So just like y'all are used to extracting a zip file, right clicking and, extracting a zip file, unzip it, and then just install it. And then you got it all going. That's pretty dope. Oh yeah, I forgot about, a lot of people don't know about Chocolaty on Windows. Chocolaty, man, I can't type, is a package manager for Windows, just like Brew, just like apt. So if you're using Windows, it's a pretty cool package manager to allow you to easily install things like the AWS CLI. What's up, Data? What's up, La Fioska? I'm gonna try. I'm doing my best. I gave it my all. I might have missed. It might have been a swing and a miss, but I tried it. Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for the follow. Oh man, what's up? Hi Nat. Welcome to the channel. So glad to have you all here. We're just running through some. We're learning about AWS, Amazon Web Services. And we're kind of getting everything set up and installed right now. Okay, so once you do that, the way that you confirm that it's working is you type in AWS if you'd like, and that will give you some output. If it's not installed, it'll probably say AWS command not found. And if you installed it and you already had a CLI open, try closing that. Try closing the window, close out all your CLIs. What command prompt, terminal, whatever. Try closing out, getting back into it, and seeing if it would work. Absolutely. Sometimes I can't keep up. Sometimes I can't keep up, but you guys came in at the right time. Is that Pop! OS? So we will be switching back to Pop! OS. I'm a Pop! OS user. This is actually Ubuntu 2004. The reason it's Ubuntu 2004 is because I really was hyped to try out 20.04, and I was too hyped to wait for Pop! OS to come out. Pop! OS has in fact dropped 20.04, and I've just been too lazy to switch. I'll probably switch over this weekend, just 'cause I do enjoy using Pop! OS. I like supporting Pop! OS. I like what System 76 does. So I do like to support Pop! OS. I like to shout it out. I do own a Pop! OS computer. I mean, System 76 computer. So I like that stuff. Yep, this is GNOME. This is in fact GNOME. This is not a Mac. This is in fact Ubuntu 20.04 running a little bit of GNOME with some nice looking stuff. I make my stuff pretty, make it beautiful. We like to operate, we like to set up an environment that makes us feel good. It incites some creativity in us. But yeah, so if you type in AWS, your AWS CLI is working. Now, we are not going to configure. This is just to get the thing installed. There's another step to configure it. We're not going to configure it today. Why are we not going to configure it today? Because I don't want you, because then I would have to teach you all about IAM today. We're going to learn about IAM next week. We're taking it piece by piece. It's okay. The only goal is to get it installed, and all you're looking for is you type in AWS. You can type in AWS-S version if you'd like instead, and that'll just let you know that it's installed. But as long as you're not getting AWS command not found, it's installed properly, you're looking good. Y'all scaring the newbies in here? I'm sorry. These are all, like, we're not talking about anything that really matters. This is nerd talk. We're just talking about Linux distributions, the most exciting thing in the world. IAM is the best tool in the world. This post sponsored by AWS. Yes, Jackie. It's a great tool. I mean, IAM is pretty dope. You can do some pretty interesting things with IAM. The permissions model is very interesting, and I like it. I like it a lot. So that's your homework. That's part of your homework, is to go ahead and try to get AWS CLI installed. I will add it as a genuine homework assignment. Do your best. I'll put the link in the slide as well. Let's just put the link in there now, actually. To get some information about that. So remember, what are the two things, what are the two ways that we can interact with AWS? The two ways we can interact with AWS are through the GUI, through the console, which is a GUI. So the console, the web console, which is a GUI, a graphical user interface. You can do everything through there, or you can access things programmatically. And there are a couple ways to do that. One is through SDKs, and there are a number of SDKs depending on the language, but there also is the AWS CLI, which is super common. If you are looking to go past this course, I highly recommend the AWS. You get familiar with the AWS CLI. I interact with AWS mostly through the AWS CLI. I actually don't. If I can avoid logging into the console, I actually avoid logging into the console, just because I don't like it. Okay, a lot of stuff. We're not gonna spend too much time on that. A lot of stuff. We are gonna get a text editor installed after this, but now we're about to learn about AWS's global infrastructure. Got an hour left. I think we're gonna get through this real fast. There's only like 3 slides on this, but these concepts are very important. So we're gonna overtime. These concepts are extremely important. This is kind of the base level of AWS, and yeah, it's very important. So I do want you to, although it's not a lot of information, I do want you to pay big attention, or maybe it is a lot of information. I want you to pay attention here. We'll take a little bit of a mental break for a second, get ourselves together, ask any questions about the things we talked about so far, and then we're gonna dive straight into it. I have a script that builds and nukes Candy Crush OS 24/7. Yeah, okay. That sounds like the most efficient, most important script ever. I like it. What's up, Como? Good to see you. How you doing today? Does AWS deal with IAS, SaaS, and PaaS? All right, great question. FOI code. So you dropped a bunch of acronyms there. IaaS is infrastructure as a service. SaaS is software as a service. PaaS is platform as a service. There's some arguments that can be made that AWS itself is a platform as a service. The entirety of it, there's some arguments you can make for there. I wouldn't really consider anything they do software as a service, but all of it's basically infrastructure as a service. Yeah, all of it's basically infrastructure as a service, and the way that you manage it. So yes, it does deal with IaaS. A lot of SaaS products are running on AWS, but I wouldn't consider anything that AWS does as software as a service, but I would consider AWS as a whole. Oh, and some of the things that they have in there, like I would consider some of their managed services, like I would kind of consider AKS, the Kubernetes service. I would kind of consider that as a PaaS, because I would consider Kubernetes as a platform as a service, kind of. So I don't know. There's some arguments to be made there, but yes. Could you repeat what Chocolaty for again? Yes, Chocolaty is a package manager, so it allows you to easily be able to install things. So instead of having to go to a website and find something to download and like find the right link and find the right version for your computer, you can just you can install Chocolaty, and they keep all the packages there and available. So if you want to install Node.js, you say, hey, Chocolaty, install Node.js for me, and it goes off and installs it. If you want to install Firefox, anything like that, you can just install everything through this one application, and it handles the installation for you so that you don't have to do it yourself. And so it just makes it easy to install tools on your computer. What language are used by APIs? So we're gonna talk about APIs one day. Real quick overview of APIs, because they were very confusing to me at first. All an API all it is a way for, let's say I write an application, you know, I'm developing it internally, I have some data, you know, I have this application over here, you don't know anything about it, like you know nothing about my application. If you wanted to use data or something, or if you wanted to use some functionality that my application had, you would have to, like, I would have to basically give you the code for it so you can understand how it worked, and you have to interface, like write code to match up with my code. We don't want to do that. That doesn't make any sense. Like, how could anyone do that? So like what API does is it allows you to expose functionality to other people. So it's a layer kind of on top of your the functionality of your application, so that other applications can talk to it. So what you do is you build this, like, it's like a translation layer. It's like you building a little Google translator on top of your app and say, hey, if anyone wants to get, let's say I have say my application is keeping track, maybe I'm keeping track of all the different types of cars there are out there and the models, makes and models, because I like that stuff. And maybe your application, you don't really care about that stuff, you don't want to keep that stuff up to date, but you want to utilize some of that information. I can put an API over top of my data and my functionality to say, hey, if you want to find out information about this car, go ahead and send me a request that looks like, that's structured like this, and I will give you back the information that you're asking for. And so yeah, it's just a way for two separate systems, two completely unrelated systems, to speak to each other without having to, you know, write code to truly integrate or have access to the same services. Yeah, I know that may not be like, sometimes we need to contextualize things around that, and I think a lot of the stuff that we do in here will contextualize that. So if it's not fully connecting yet, watch a couple videos on it, see if it helps. But I think as we dive into stuff, it'll make it a little more approachable for you. All right, the super important piece of tonight, the AWS global infrastructure. Very important stuff right here. Regions. Put this down with a big star next to it. Regions, the things that we're learning now are very important. All regions is a physical location around the world that we cluster data centers. All right, so regions are physical locations around the entire Earth that we cluster data centers. What is a data center? Let's take a look at what a data center looks like. So data center is just it's just a warehouse of servers, to be honest. But I'll show you we're gonna say a picture of one. I used to work in data centers. But they're literally giant buildings that are cooled, and they have backup electricity, and they're fortified. Actually, most of them are fortified because we want to keep them safe. And you know, they keep access away, and they have false floors so that air can kind of go underneath. And they have fire suppression systems because it's super important. And so yeah, they just house a lot of servers that are networked, that are powered. Data flows through them very quickly. But yeah, that's all it is. That's all a data center is. And so a region in Amazon is a physical location around the world where a cluster of data centers exist. So we're about to look at the regions that Amazon has right now, but there are currently 24 geographic regions in AWS. That's right now, that's the current amount, with I think more on the map. I think they've added some since, I think when I took my last exam, there were only, I want to say there were only 19 of them around the world. What's up, Atlanta Lux? Oh my gosh, what a huge raid. This is pretty crazy, actually. This is nuts. I'm gonna let people get through their stuff. Oh man, that's dope. I was actually I was lurking in your channel earlier today. I know nothing about building games, but I always see you on Live Coders, and I was checking you out. So it's pretty dope. I was watching what you were building. Defend. MG, I don't have that cool overlay over here. I'm not cool like Callow Creation, so I don't really know how to do that. But thank you, everyone. Come on in. We're just talking about some Amazon Web Services tonight. We're going through an entire boot camp of how to approach Amazon Web Services. We're getting ready for people to take in all the information they need to be able to take some of these certifications for AWS. And we're learning how the cloud works, and how the data, how like the cloud is the reason you're able to watch this right now. The cloud's the reason you're able to interface with people in the chat right now. And so we're learning how those things will work, and we're just taking our time. But thank you so much. That's dope. You're also a VIP now. Thank you. Yeah, there you go. You are You are now a VIP. Thank you so much. All right. So again, I don't want to take too much time away from that, because again, this is a very important topic. Think about regions, geographic locations around the world. Let's look at, actually, let's learn about regions and availability zones, and then we'll actually take a look at all of them, where they reside, where they exist. Yeah, so let's see. How do you choose a region? So those regions are places like US, like the eastern part of the United States. So a lot of people don't know the main data center locations for AWS are actually in Northern Virginia. They're actually in Ashburn, I believe. Ashburn, Virginia is a big warehouse for data centers for a lot of companies. Actually, it's pretty interesting. So Ashburn, Virginia actually has a pretty huge data pipe running through it, which is super nice. So luckily for people like us on the East Coast, we have some pretty robust infrastructure super close to us. There's data centers on the West Coast. There's data centers in Singapore. There's data centers in Canada. There's data centers everywhere. And these are those geographic regions. But how would you choose which region you want to go to, or that you want to put your stuff in? So each of these, like your services, when you rent a service from Amazon, you can rent it from a specific region. How do you choose what that which region that is? There are three important things. These are very important. The first one is latency or proximity. So latency is the amount of time it takes for your request to get from someone's computer to the service and back. And that's affected by physical distance. So me getting data from the data centers, I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. For me to get information from the data center that is in Reston, Virginia, doesn't take very long, but it might take a little bit long if I want to get it from Australia. So you got to think about that. So you want to choose a region that's close to your customers. So think about latency and proximity. Also, you want to think about services. Not every service is available in every region. And we saw, if you go back and if you ever take the time to watch this again, you saw earlier, we actually looked at a service and it said, this is not available in your region. Certain services are only available in certain regions. So you may have to choose a different region for a service, for something that you want to use. And the last one is for data laws and requirements. So data sovereignty laws. So like maybe you're working with the government and the government says, hey, the data that we're using for this application cannot be hosted outside of this country. So your data center can't be in EU. It can't be in the European Union. It can't be in China. So these are the three big reasons on what you need to worry about. Oh yeah, I need to cut down the follower time. I actually should have. I meant to add a Stream Deck plugin here so that I could turn off followers only chat whenever I got rated. So I'm sorry about that. But yes, so regions, physical locations around the world, and these are the three reasons. These reasons are important. Think about how close your customers are to these regions. Think about the service that you're using. And then think about the data laws and requirements. Now, you're not going to know what those are most of the time, but think about that as something you may want to ask places that you're working. Hey, are there any restrictions or rules about the data that we're hosting here, that we're managing, about the tools and services? Is there anything that I need to know about that? But when you were in the AWS console, not CLI, you can see here, look at this. It says Ohio up here. So it dropped me in Ohio. By default for some reason. Sometimes I guess that might be the main one now, but look at this right here. Look at all these things right here. These are all regions. So we have US East, which is Northern Virginia, US East, Ohio. So that's US East 2, US East 1, US West 1, US West 2. So that's Northern California, Oregon, Africa, Cape Town. So there are places worldwide, Asia Pacific, Canada, Europe, Middle East, South America. There's only a single one in South America, it looks like. We got Bahrain in the Middle East. So we have 24 physical locations with not a single data center. These are places that have clusters of data centers. What are clusters of data centers? That's more than one data center that exists in this area. You can absolutely mine with AWS if you want. It may not be financially smart to do so, but they do have GPU services. They have compute resources where you can use their GPU services. You can in fact mine. Yes, but these are all of those regions. And we're going to look at a map in a second and learn a little bit more about those in a second. But the last big thing, regions and availability zones are the two kind of main important topics. And availability zone, an availability zone, or an AZ, is one or more discrete data centers with redundant power, networking, and connectivity in an AWS region. That is very, very important. I know I had to read this a bunch of times to start to understand this. So we said that a cluster of data centers might exist within a region, but each of those regions, every 24 region in there, it has these things called availability zones. So availability zones are inside of a region, and they have their own discrete power, networking, connectivity inside of there. Why is that important? That's important because they're designed to operate both together but redundantly. So a lot of the services and things that you'll use in AWS will push. You'll select a region. Let's say we spun up a server and we spun it up in US East 1, which is Northern Virginia. So that's the region. But we'd also have those resources inside of one of the availability zones. Usually they're named A, B, and C, or D and E, depending on however many there are. But my stuff would be in one availability zone. But what these availability zones do is they allow for redundancy, and they allow for failure and fault tolerance between a region. So what does that mean? That means that if a data center were to go down, you wouldn't lose your data. You wouldn't lose access to certain things. And so that's what the goal of these availability zones are. Is to maximize the availability of your application within a region. These are very important concepts. So again, remember, a region is the geographical location around the world that a cluster of data centers resides in. There are 24 of them. And then an availability zone is one or more data centers inside of that region that have redundant power, networking, and connectivity. So redundant, so it has failover, it has backups of the things that are in one availability zone. So it's pretty interesting. We're going to talk about fault tolerance. We're going to talk about highly available applications, but high level, that is what you need to know, is that regions, the geographic location, 24 of them, and then inside of each region are availability zones that allow for redundancy within their clusters. There are one or more data centers that allow for that. There are 76 available zones. So if you think, we have 24 available regions, but 76 availability zones, there are probably about 3 availability zones per region. So let's check those out really quick. There's probably a lot of questions about that. So I'm gonna look at the chat in a second, but what I wanted to do first is I wanted to show you AWS regions, because they have like a whole section and map on this, because these are very, very important. And I don't think this is the page that I wanted. This one is that's for RDS. Global infrastructure. Yeah, this is the nice one. I like this one. Oh yeah, the data laws are super important. It's one that I don't really forget, because again, I work for a contract with the government, and we've had times right now where it's like, oh, like we can't do this, we can't use certain tools because they're headquartered and their application is not hosted inside the United States. So like, yeah, data sovereignty laws are huge. Where data resides is super important. How noticeable is there fault tolerance between regions? Great question. So one thing that's important to note before we go over this is that yes, while your applications are designed to kind of exist within a single region, you can have things that speak across regions, but you probably shouldn't. Is there fault tolerance between regions? Yes. So there can be. There are ways, and it's more of an advanced topic, but there are ways to allow for fault tolerance between regions. It's there's almost a 0% chance that an entire region will go out. But if it were to go out, there are ways to fail over to another region. Generally that's done with DNS failover, but we'll again, all things we'll talk about later. But there's a lot of options for failover here. Thank you so much, MG, for the bits. I really appreciate it. All right, so here's a map of where these things are. And so again, map key, it tells you, I think I shared it in here. Yeah, I did. I shared the link, but it shows you, how many availability zones are in each of the regions. So US East, Ohio has 3 availability zones. US West, like most of them have 3 availability zones. US West has 4. But yeah, this is just I hate this. Why won't this go away? But this is just some information about it. So again, usually those availability zones are A, B, and C, or D or E. I think there are some E's in there. We're not gonna talk about local zones right now. Not super important. We're not gonna talk about outposts, but I would just use this to kind of as a reference to go back to what regions are. But again, they're just physical locations around the world. And again, it's very important. When we logged in, it put us in Ohio. And so if I were to, right now, if I were to add some resources, if I were to say go into EC2 and create the EC2 instance, I'd only be able to see it while I'm looking in this region. Like a lot of times I've seen people do some work and then log out and log back in, and they're in a different region and think all their work is gone and not understand what's going on and not be able to find their stuff. I've also seen people waste money over the months by doing some work somewhere, believing they turned down all or turned off all their services, only later to realize they had done everything in a different region. In that region, no matter where your availability zone, what availability zones you're using, you can see all of those as long as you're set to the proper region. And again, I would choose the one that's closest to you. There's no reason, unless the tool that you care about is not available in your region, there's no reason why you shouldn't. So I will tell you this about regions. US East 1 is the first and kind of most important region. It's kind of the OG region. There's some very specific things that happen here that don't happen elsewhere. I think they're trying to change that though. There's some interesting things about S3 with that as well. There's also some things like S3 that are global. OG is the original gangsta region. It's the first region. It was the first region, I'm pretty sure. And it's where they like started to build out all their stuff. So it has some, like a lot of stuff goes there first. A lot of new services go there first. A lot of the way some things are set up there are very interesting. Besides that, there are some global, there's some tools that are global. Things like S3. You can see here it'll switch to global, where it's not region specific, which is pretty interesting. But we'll talk about this when we get to some of the service questions. Can they just transfer the work if it's set up in an incorrect region? Yeah. You could maybe transfer the work. There's some interesting networking rules and things that you would have to do to allow easy transfer of the work. But yeah, you could. Yes, US East 1 does get overloaded sometimes. That is something that's very important as well, that I think people don't talk about often, is that AWS has massive infrastructure, but it is finite. It is a finite amount of infrastructure, a finite amount of data. So you can request. It's possible that you would say, hey, I need a server right now, and there not be a server available for you. I mean, I've never run into it, but it does happen at certain times because of the speed at which you can spin up resources. You can request a resource and then not be available in your region because it's all out. And so you have to choose a different region for that. Can you transfer services to another availability zone? Yes. Yep. Absolutely. You can transfer services to another AZ. You can. There's and so, but a lot of times you don't need to transfer to another AZ, Hugo, because a lot of them will set up either endpoints or redundancies in those for you, so that you don't have to worry about it. So things like S3 and stuff, it's super reliable and super redundant, because when you upload it, it'll automatically replicate it to other availability zones. And there's a lot of services that will actually do that for you. Will as soon as you get the data, as soon as Amazon gets the data, they'll replicate that for you in another AZ so that you don't have to worry about it. So yeah, so there are other ways. You don't really need to transfer stuff. There are other ways to do some things. Do you have to pay extra for an AZ or it's done by AWS? It's all done by AWS. Thank you, Gifted Grifter. Thank you so much for the bits. What if you're auto scaling resources and the resource isn't available? You just be out of luck, or will it automatically select the next available closest AZ? Great question. Great question for auto scaling. I know we're jumping ahead a little bit for everyone. Don't sweat it. Amazon has a feature to where if you're, let's say I'm selling some shoes and I have a server that's running and I get some cool shoes in and a bunch of people end up coming to my website and my server is not big enough to handle the load, it will automatically give me more servers automatically without me having to do anything. It will automatically spin it up for me. If a server is not available, I actually think it just will not auto scale. I'm pretty sure I think it'll keep trying until one is available, but I do not think it will. And so if it's another AZ, it'll spin it up in another AZ, but it won't spin it up in a different region. It'll spin it up in a different AZ though. But that was a really good question. Okay, let's so yes, regions, availability zones, super duper important. I would check out that page that I sent, which was this AWS global infrastructure page. The last little thing about the global infrastructure, I know that wasn't a lot of information, but two very important pieces of information. The last thing is edge locations. We're going to talk about it for a second because it's in here, and if you're in here you might get a little confused. Edge locations are geographic regions around the world. I don't want to call them regions. They're geographic locations around the world that Amazon uses to cache data. And the reason they use it to cache data is so that people, when they're trying to request information, can get that information from a place that's closest to them. So the very last slide I have is here, and I say it's a bonus because we haven't really dove into any services yet, but we're going to dive into CloudFront just for a second here. So CloudFront is something called a content delivery network. And so as you all know, now the internet, it's global. It's you may want to get all of your content to anyone. CloudFront is a tool. There are other CDNs. Maybe some of you have heard of some tools like Cloudflare or Akamai. But CloudFront allows you to basically put your data behind a giant Amazon service, behind the CDN, to be able to distribute your stuff around the world and make it available around the world. So let's say I knew all of you, and actually, so my website is actually behind CloudFront now. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So if millions of people were to hit my website right now, it would probably stay up, even though I don't have a big server behind it. I'm not running a server at all, but it would probably stay up. It would stay up. What CloudFront does is you put your site behind. Let's say this thing right here. Actually, you know what? This is what I was going to use the whiteboard for. Let's check this out here. All right, let's see if we can whiteboard this up a little bit and see what we can do. So let's say this right here, this is your website. Yeah, you like that? You like that drawing right there? And here are all the people sitting at their computers. This is I don't know what I'm doing. Why is it red? Oh no. This is a computer right here. Everyone's sitting at their computer and they are getting information straight from your website. Now, like I said, if there are a million of these people, this is problematic. Your resources and stuff that are on this website will, they're going to overload this and your site's going to go down and you're not going to be able to serve them. You're not gonna be able to serve the people any of that data. So what CloudFront is it's this middle layer. It's a middle layer here. So instead of people going directly to your website, they go to this big thing right here called CloudFront. And the request actually goes here instead. And CloudFront says, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I know that I'm supposed to respond to this request. When I get a request for website, I'm going to see if I already have cache data. If I have cache data, I'm going to give this back. So cache data is just saved data about that website. It's going to go ahead and give it back. So instead of serving from my website, it's going to serve from here. But if it doesn't have the saved data for that page, it's going to go, like CloudFront is going to go once to the website, and then when it goes back to the person, it's going to just save that data here. So it's going to save all the data here. Not only is it going to save that data here, CloudFront is going to push this around the world. It's going to push it to edge locations. Edge locations around the world. And so when someone goes to academy.mastermind.io, this is actually being requested from the closest edge location to me. So let's say there's an edge location in Maryland somewhere. It's actually serving from here. If you are in Africa, it's going to find the closest edge location and it's going to serve it from there instead. So instead of having to travel around the world to Northern Virginia to get that request, it's going to serve it to the person. It's going to serve it to the person from an edge location. But what it's going to do is, again, how does it know about that data? The very first request it gets, it's actually going to travel the entire world. So if you're in Africa and you're the first person who's ever hitting my website, that first request is going to travel the entirety of the world and come on back to Africa, and it's going to go to that edge location. The edge location is going to share it to the consumer over here, but it'll save that data so that it never has to make that request again, or at least for a while. There's a timeout, doesn't have to make that again. So the very first request is a real request to the server. All subsequent requests are now cached, and they're served again from these edge locations. So CloudFront distributes it kind of around to these edge locations. And so that's interesting. I can kind of show you real time a little bit how that works a little bit. So let's I'm gonna do curl. So what curl does is it's away from the command line to make web requests. Curl -i hps what's my website? academy.mastermind.io, and I'm gonna curl it. So I want you to look at something. That's interesting. So there's this cache thing here. You don't need to worry about all of this and what's happening here, but it's saying hit from CloudFront. It's saying refresh hit from CloudFront, but it's saying hit from CloudFront. Watch this really quick. I'm gonna log out of here. So remember, I said that's cache data. When it gets that hit, it's saying, hey, I'm giving you, oh wow, I'm so sorry, thank you. Academy view, man. There we go. So here's what I was talking about here. I'll clear it again, I'll run it again. I'm glad, thank you guys for giving me the heads up. Swapping it. I get this hit from CloudFront because my site, my site is going through CloudFront. Yes, CloudFront is similar to Cloudflare. It is exactly the same thing. They're both content delivery networks. And so I get a hit from CloudFront. But if I were to, so it's gonna give that cache response back until the cache expires. So I can say, hey, only keep cache data for 24 hours. You know, in case I want to update my site. Only keep cache things for 24 hours. So after 24 hours, the saved cache would die, and then someone's request will go through and it will go get the new data, and then it will serve cache data from now on. But if I go into, I'm gonna log out really quick, and I'm gonna log in to and put this in. Also, just for your awareness, if you ever have to let someone see, don't let anyone ever see two of your one-time passwords or whatever that rotate, your two-factor auth. Never let someone see two of those in a row, because then they can crack it. But yeah. So let me go to CloudFront. So I'm actually in my AWS account that's actually served out of. What I'm going to do is I'm going to manually clear the cache. So you can manually go in and say, hey, all the cache data that CloudFront has, all the data at all those edge locations around the world, I can clear that out. So my edge locations actually only exist within the United States, I believe. But I can go ahead and say, all right, go ahead and clear all that out. Now, because people do hit my site, maybe we won't see it, but watch this. I curl it again, I get hit. It's still clearing. Hold on. I may not get a miss. Look at that. So after it cleared, and so the clearing takes a few minutes because it's clearing everywhere around the world. But what I got was a miss. And so a miss says, all right, CloudFront says, hey, I do not have any cache data here. I'm going to go ahead and reach out to the server to get the updated data. And then every subsequent thing is going to be a hit until I clear the cache again. So it's sometimes this can be a little bit of a complicated subject of why you would want that, or why you wouldn't always use something like this. And again, there's a number of reasons why, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I just want to talk about this to kind of talk about I wish I could have shown you where this was coming from, like which edge location I was getting this from. There are ways to actually see that, but I don't know, just a way to talk about one of the services that uses those edge locations. I think only like one other service actually uses edge locations, but CloudFront is the main one. And again, it allows you to distribute your data worldwide and to be able to serve it to people, without any performance hiccups, or without many performance hiccups at all. So what does curl mean? Curl means curl is just a tool to make web requests from the command line. So this web request that I made when I went to academy.mastermind.io, this is what your browser does when you type into it. It's not running a curl, but it's performing the same action, just like if I went here. So if I actually take off the I, watch this. I take off the I and go to the site. I just got back the actual well, this is not a good terminal to see it in, but I actually just got back all the HTML for the page. So everything that exists right here, I just got all this back from the command line. So it's a way to make a web request. It's like I'm in the browser. It's a way to make the web request from the command line. And I gave it a little flag so that I could get only certain information back. There are ways to get just specific information back. I asked for just the headers. So if you're familiar with headers, this would be more like if I was in here and I grabbed, what am I looking for? And I grabbed the headers out of, man, I'm always confused about the dev tools, but yeah, I can grab the headers out of here. And it's just a way to grab information from the command line. So yeah, that was a little bit extra, and I also wanted to give you that extra as a bonus to talk about it now, and to give you some hands-on to kind of get you like primed for some of the stuff that we're going to be doing. I'm hoping actually that when we talked about CloudFront, we talked about edge locations, and you saw me curling this, I hope that you're a little like, ooh, like this seems like it's going to be a lot. And again, it's not to scare you, but it's to start to just get you, like, start getting you more and more comfortable with the tougher and tougher concepts that we're going to be going into. We're really going to start taking our time on these things. So like, we're going to dive deep. Like when we get to EC2, we're going to spend a significant amount of time in there, in S3, significant amount of time. And we're going to use CloudFront. We're going to put stuff behind it. We're going to do that stuff. So I'm just trying to get you, remember one of the things I said is I wanted to get you comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm making you a little bit uncomfortable. And we're going to fill in the gaps. I promise you, we're going to fill in the gaps. Boba Cat, thank you so much for the gifted sub. I really appreciate it. But do not, I hear you. I know you're lost. I'm throwing a lot at you. Don't sweat it. This is a lot. That was the last major concept for tonight. The only other concept we're going to talk about, not even concept, the only other topic we're going to talk about tonight is there will be a portion of this course where you need to use a text editor. And I'm actually going to take you guys into this is from yesterday, and actually I'll just copy this I'll copy this slide into ours, just so so we have it. Keep original styles, I guess. I don't know. I want to talk to you really quick, so now you guys should have that in your slides as well. But we will need to be getting a text editor installed. We're not going to be doing a ton inside of a text editor, but we will be doing some things in there, and I think it's valuable to let you mess around with it. The one that I recommend is Visual Studio Code. This is made by Microsoft. Excuse me. It's super robust. It is by far I think right now, like it's got to be the most popular one out right now. I highly recommend VS Code. I'm gonna show you a link. Let's grab a link really quick. Give you a link here. Why do people use Visual Studio Code so much? Visual Studio Code. So first off, what is a text editor or an IDE? But a text editor is simply, it's Microsoft Word. It's an application that helps you edit text. But when people say text editors, they're referring to tools that have been optimized to help you modify code properly. So what does that mean? It means that these text editors, and so I have it installed here. These text editors make it so that you can easily, it gives you things like code completion and highlighting so that you can easily see what's going on. You can see here how I got into the text editor, and you can see how things are color coded. So this is a Rust file, and you can see how things are color coded for me. And it gives you information about like what something is and like what it does. So it helps a lot. It gives you tools to be able to modify things faster and to jump around. But they also have these cool extensions to give you to make it easier for you to do stuff. So maybe I can download this AWS toolkit. So an extension for you to interact with certain services of AWS. So this will give you nice tools to be able to do that. We'll learn how to use it later, but I do want you to download one of them. I recommend this one. I want you to know about some of the other ones that are available. You will commonly see me using Vim. You've probably already seen me using it. Vim is a text editor that exists within the command line. So it's here. It doesn't have a graphical user interface. It is here. So if I do a Vim, so this is a text editor right here. And I could, I can edit text, right here. And I can do whatever I want and, modify code accordingly here. I do not recommend Vim for beginners. I don't recommend Vim for most people. There's a lot of reasons why I recommend Vim. It has a very high learning curve, but I don't recommend if you're a beginner. Don't even take a look at it. It can be pretty cumbersome. Can you use PyCharm? We're not going to be doing anything with any of the SDKs, so no. Well, you could it probably wouldn't cause any problems, but it probably wouldn't give you kind of the benefits of the text editor. It probably wouldn't highlight things because we're probably just gonna be writing some YAML, to be honest. Probably just writing some YAML, to be honest. So I would download VS Code or Sublime Text, or Atom. There's one from GitHub called Atom, or Cloud9 if you want to spend some time in AWS. Cloud9 is also fine as well. But like I said, check it out. It's just don't let it scare you. A text editor, it really is, I'm not even joking, it really is like Microsoft Word. It really is. But just the tools and stuff that exist inside of it are just made better for code. You could type a paper in here if you wanted. It wouldn't have all the nice formatting, but you could type a paper if you wanted inside of VS Code. You could people take notes inside of VS Code. You can just write text files if you like. I can make a new Aaron.txt file and I can just start typing, hello everyone. And it's just a file. It's nothing special about it. Writing code, nothing special about writing code. It's just a text file. It really is just a text file. So don't sweat it at all. Someone asked about a path. I think someone asked about path. Path is an interesting paradigm to kind of aggregate locations on your computer. It makes it easy for you to access tools and executables and files and binaries without having to reference them at their complete path. Again, we're talking. I'm actively talking about something that is a little bit complicated that we haven't touched. We're gonna get to the Linux portion, and we probably won't even cover path there, but it basically allows it so like when I type in code, if this was not a part of my path, if this wasn't part of the aggregate path, I wouldn't be able to reference it like this. I would have to actually specify the whole path to it. So I don't know where it's located at, but it would probably be something like Etsy, I don't know, it would just be a long line of things, and then it would be like code. So like if something's not a part of your path, you gotta call it by name, you gotta call it by its full location. It's kind of annoying. The path variable can be very, very annoying, and you can see the things that are part of your path by like echo. So like these are all the directories that I can call executables from, because they're part of my path. It's don't sweat it right now. Don't sweat it at all. This is all some Linux stuff. I'm a huge Linux fan. I love it. Yeah, you should. This is not AWS stuff. This is all Linux stuff right here. But yeah, if it isn't in your path, you can't call it by name. You have to call it by the full, the absolute path that it exists at. But that's it. That's it for tonight. Like I said, I recommend you download a text editor. VS Code is the one I recommend. But feel free to try out some of the other ones. Yeah, feel free to try out some of the other ones if you'd like. No need to do anything with it right now. Homework is to both download that and to try to get AWS CLI installed. Just get it there. When we get to the IAM portion, that's when we'll actually set up the CLI, and we'll actually be interfacing with AWS from the CLI. But yeah, and get ready for next time. So take that quiz. There's a quiz up. People were saying they were having some trouble getting to it. I will make sure the permissions are proper. Actually, let's do that right now, and then we'll talk about the question that you had, Shade. It was a great question. So we'll talk about salaries in a little bit, and how they apply to kind of the levels of the certifications and things. Yo, Thug Muffin, you made it. We got to link up, man. We got to link up for sure. I'm glad you made it. Glad you're safe. What was I about to do? I was about to make sure you guys could take the quiz. Can someone confirm that they can't take the quiz first still? Because I made a permissions change. Can we confirm that you can't take the quiz? And then you all can help me fix it because you're here. Quiz work for you. Okay, I use Notepad++ for the longest. Notepad++ is great. It's great, but there are some stuff. I got the quiz up, no problem. All right, cool. So the changes must have taken effect. Excellent, thank you. You all are so helpful. I really appreciate you. All right, so I left this up. Did I leave it up? Maybe I didn't. AWS global. Okay, we just find it. AWS certifications. So, Shade, I don't know, Shade, if you're still on here. You asked about kind of what kind of salaries these could equate to. I think it's also important that we could talk about like the jobs that you can kind of get with these, or that you commonly would go for with something like this. I think these are great questions, and putting some of this into perspective helps a lot. So foundational, the stuff that we're studying right now, we are doing a foundational course, but we're doing a little bit of a hybrid. We're doing more than just foundational. We're kind of doing all of the foundational, and we're going to be dipping into the lower levels of these associate level courses. Foundational, and they tell you in here, foundational is for it's for a pretty broad audience. It's for people, you know, on the executive teams. It's for CEOs. It's for business analysts. It's for people, you know, who are managing requirements, but it's also for anyone looking to understand the cloud, who's doing anything technical already. So systems administrators, systems engineers, developers. It's for everyone. It's the ground floor for people to get in. It's mostly, this one in particular is mostly for people who both have don't understand anything about AWS, but also don't know much about kind of distributed computing or like serving applications kind of over the web, and kind of how that works. So again, it's a little bit more broad. It's for everyone. This is not this is not a certification that will get you a job. I don't think it's a certification that will get you a job, but it's a certification that you can use in your role to bolster your knowledge and make you a little more valuable. So that's why I recommended, if you were someone who's trying to do a little more engineering inside of the cloud, or get deeper into the cloud and get more hands-on building things in the cloud, that I recommend you study for this and like go through the material, but I don't recommend you necessarily take this. I think for someone like a business analyst, or someone like, you know, a product owner, someone who's a developer even, I think this makes you a little more valuable, because like you can take your skill set and understand how it applies to the cloud. So I don't really feel comfortable giving like a salary range for something like this, because this applies to a lot of people. But when we step up to the associate level certifications, I think these are held in pretty high regard in a lot of places. So associate level certifications are where companies start to get credit for the Amazon partnership for people who hold these. The developer associate is designed a little more around software developers who have been developing things, and it's more centered around tools that they might want to use to be able to build things out. SysOps is more of the systems administrator, like start of DevOpsy thing, where you're going to be doing a little more hands-on, kind of need to understand about, you know, a little more about deployment patterns and like actually hands-on doing the stuff. You need to understand a little bit more about computers and systems, period, understanding, you know, caveats you might face with storage and things like that. It's a little more hands-on. This is the most difficult of the associate level courses or certifications. And solutions architect is more broad. The solutions architect is the route that you go if you don't necessarily want to be, you know, a cloud engineer. I mean, it's great for you to take if you don't want to be a cloud engineer. I think solutions architect is the one that's more is less focused as the other two, and is a good option for literally everyone. And it focuses again on problem solving within the cloud. It focuses on solving the big problem within the cloud rather than like the hands-on implementation of the solutions. I think that's the difference between SysOps and solutions architect. Now, salary wise, I do think that having these makes you, if you haven't worked in the industry, I think having these makes you more valuable. I think people will look at you more. I think if you got zero experience coming in with one of these certifications, depending on what type of role it is, I honestly, I'd say you could net, I'd say starting off, you could net between, with no experience at all, like 50 and 70. It's gonna be tough. Like, it's not gonna be easy to find a role kind of in the cloud without any other technical experience. I think the cloud is one of those interesting things that, because it encompasses everything, like all the other technical fields, kind of like they all do things with the cloud. The cloud is valuable for all of them. So I think it's kind of hard to give an exact number, because I think you could fall into a lot of different groups here. But starting out, I think if you have a certification like this, I do think you could find a job in the $50,000 to $70,000 range. But it's also interesting, because I think if you have some industry experience already, I think if you have 2 or 3 years of development experience or systems administration experience, I think one of these certifications can net you, you know, a $20,000 bonus or $20,000 increase in your salary. To be 100% honest, I've seen it happen a number of times. Again, people will pay you for having these. They don't equal money, but again, it's a tool that you can use to get a little more money. I think that because these are the kind of catch-all certifications for AWS. So they represent the widest range of salaries, the widest range of skill sets. So you'll see people making from $50,000 to $150,000 that have these certifications. Right here. So I think there's I don't think there's really a ceiling. And again, like I said, they're just tools to kind of work with. But these AWS solutions architect professionals and DevOps engineer professionals, I gotta be honest with you, I wouldn't, like, for the people that I know that have them, from the types of roles that are generally requiring these things. Like there are roles that require one of these professional level AWS cert. These can range, I mean, 100 depending on where you are in the country, 130 on up, 250, 300. I've seen roles offering 300 for solutions architects with significant experience building, you know, robust enterprise infrastructure. And like, I've also worked with AWS engineers. I've sat through sessions with AWS engineers who were solutions architects who've never solved a real production problem, but they know, they've learned how you're supposed to use AWS resources to solve problems, and they're making salaries of $150,000, $180,000 a year. So this is an interesting line over here. This is a little more focused. This is for your more hands-on approach, you know, really implementing these things, really caring about getting the code from where it is to where it needs to be. And again, this is more of a higher level problem solving thing, more of an organizational problem solving thing, rather than the day-to-day implement these things type of things. We'll be able to take this course, the certs after this course. You will be able to take this. I'm very confident that you'll be able to take this cloud practitioner certification once this course is over. It's designed around that. Once we get to the intermediate course, so after this, I'll be running, after these 8 weeks, we'll be running an intermediate course. You will be able to, you will be comfortable. You'll be able to take these courses, these certifications. These are not easy certifications. I want to be clear about that. Cloud practitioner is relatively simple. It's relatively simple. I don't think you'll need, like, I'm not saying everyone's going to pass it the first time, but I highly doubt you need to take it more than twice. It really focuses on the foundations of AWS, and I think there's a lot of resources to help you understand that. And I think the scope of the questions asked is actually pretty small. For the associate level ones, though, these are not easy. Like I said, I worked with AWS for 4 or 5 years. Well, I had, when I took this, I had worked for AWS for about 4 or 5 years, and I was studying for I had the developer, and right after studying for the developer, I was like, oh, I'll just go take the solutions architect because there's enough overlap. Now there is, so I took it and I got a 73. And that's without studying. I didn't realize how much was different. Again, it's it's trying to solve different problems. So I missed out on a couple of key areas that I just didn't know anything about because I never needed to touch them for my job, and I didn't study for them. And so I failed it the first time, after working with AWS for a long time, but then I went back to take it again. AWS has 175 services. There are going to be questions, there are going to be tools that you're not going to be a pro at. So it is very interesting when you get into these. This is why when you guys asked what would the intermediate one be teaching to, it's mostly going to be teaching to the solutions architect, with also an emphasis on the things that are in the developer. We will not be covering some of the deep stuff that's in SysOps because it's too hard to teach all 3 of them, and I think you can get the most out of these 2, to be honest. And again, you can, like I said, these can take you a long way. One thing that sucks about these certifications is they need to be renewed every 2 years. I think the pros are 3 years, I believe. But yeah, these need to be renewed every 2 years. Kind of sucks. But yeah, something AWS changes a lot, so it's kind of nice. But seriously though, I think that if you really want to dive, if your goal is to dive into the cloud and you want to know how much you can make, there are a number of places to go. But as with everything in the tech industry right now, at most places across the country, once you're 3 years of experience in, like 6 figures is pretty common. It's pretty common 3 years in, 3-4 years in, especially if you're specializing in something like this, maybe even sooner, depending on how deep you dive into it and how well you're able to solve problems and express that to people. All that, like, as long as you can express to people that you understand how to use these things, they'll give you the money accordingly. To be 100% honest, it does take some time to understand how to solve these problems, though. It takes some hands-on experience, but a lot of companies aren't serving 1 million clients. A lot of companies have a website, that they need you to keep up and save them money. They need you to set it up in a way that saves them money, and they need you to help their developers deploy it and keep it up and keep it out there for, you know, a couple thousand users per month or something. And it's not this crazy thing that you need to be able to solve all the problems in the world, and you can utilize the things that you've learned in your trainings to do. Yeah, there's a lot of companies that are looking for people who know the cloud, and if you're certified, it helps. It does help. It's a tool to help you get in the door, especially in lieu of experience. You have a CCNA that will get you lots of yes, it's a hard cert. It is a hard cert to get. CCNA, the CCNA is I would say difficulty wise is equivalent to Solutions Architect Pro. DevOps Engineer is a little bit easier. I've taken both practice exams a few times, maybe because I am a DevOps engineer, and my method of thinking and the way that I think about AWS falls more in line with the DevOps engineering stuff. I found that to be a lot simpler. The Solutions Architect one was like, they were like giving me, let's look at some examples real quick. What time is it? 5 minutes. All right, so like Solutions Architect Pro questions. Let's just look at like one of the, actually I have a Cloud Guru, but I don't have my login on this thing. I don't know what my password is. Sample questions. We have an old one, so the exam has changed. So these are old questions, but the exam has changed, so these might be out of date. So like you can see here, look how many words are in this. There's a lot of words in this question. For the professional, this is a professional level. Your company asked you to create a mobile app similar to Twitter. You decided to write an application in JavaScript so that it would run on a wide range of phones, browsers, and tablets. Your application should provide access to Amazon DynamoDB to store the good deed summaries, but you observe sudden spikes in your DynamoDB usage. Which option provides the most cost-effective and scalable architecture for this application? Now, we're not even breaking this down at all, but just look at how many different things you need to know to kind of understand what's going on. They kind of want to give you like, they tell you it's similar to Twitter so that you can already start to break down, like, do you know kind of the architecture of a Twitter type app? You know it's a mobile app. You decided to write the application in JavaScript. What are some caveats there? So that will run on a wide range of phones, browsers, and tablets. Your application should provide access to DynamoDB. So now you need to know things about AWS DynamoDB. What are some of the caveats there? Because it wants to store the good deed summaries, but you observe sudden spikes. So now we're getting into the, observability and performance tuning and spikes in your DynamoDB usage. Which option provides the most cost-effective and scalable architecture? So, and then it gives you a bunch of answers, and some of them, more than one of them can be right. They want you to select the best one. More than one of them can be right, which is pretty interesting. So this is why the professional exam is a little tough. Not a little tough, it's very tough, because most of them are situational. It's not just like, hey, what's this service? Like, what is this service used for? That is what the foundational level course is going to be more like. Like if we look for like AWS certified cloud practitioner sample questions, you're going to see right up front that it's going to be a much simpler, if anyone gives me one. There is a cloud bot in the Slack as well, though. Let's see if anyone gives me a sample question. Start the quiz. See, look at this. Look how much shorter the question is. Look how much shorter it is. And so this is the difference. Now you can see the difference between them. Standard storage is designed to provide, like these are much shorter questions, and they're much more straightforward, and that's the difference. And so the associate level ones are kind of right in the middle. They'll set up light scenarios, not quite as deep, and they'll ask, it's kind of a mix. It'll ask you some things like this, shorter questions, but yeah, it's pretty interesting taking some of the practice tests. I'm gonna give you guys some resources for taking practice exams. A Cloud Guru is a great one. Wiz Labs is a great one as well. And I actually think I need to check. I applied for a Wiz Labs like affiliate link just in case anyone wants it. I actually purchased, the only reason I did that is because I use Wiz Labs for my studying. And so if anyone's going to use them as well, I figured I might capitalize a little bit. But yeah, I'll share that one day. Not at the forefront of what I'm trying to do, but yeah, a lot of stuff there. So if you wanna, yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. But the specialties, what about specialties? I don't know much about the specialty certs, but I have seen postings and things for like security engineers, stuff that are asking for these things. I've seen a number of jobs of software engineer, like machine learning software engineer postings requesting the machine learning things. I like right now, the way the world is, I like if anyone's looking for one of these, like anything security related, I highly recommend people do the like there's so many security jobs, and I gotta be honest with you, I want to be as transparent about the industry as possible. Most of them are bull, most of them are BS, and they sound like they're this big crazy thing, but they're not. That's not a shot. That's like security is a tough thing. The problem is, like, especially in the government, everyone secure all the things. Like, we need a whole security team, and it's like, okay, we have a security team to look at these logs. Like, well, why do you have a whole team to look at these logs and like look at this dashboard? And they're like, well, we gotta make sure this package is updated. Like, all right, like these are all things that we can implement some automation for. So there are a lot of, like, I gotta be honest, there are a lot of security jobs that are BS out there, a lot of them. But like they pay a lot, and I actually think people should go get them. I think people should go get them for sure. But again, there also are a lot of security jobs that are phenomenal and very tough. Security is it's an interesting field, but hey, I say capitalize where you can. If that's your way in, I know people who've used security as their way in and took the time to learn kind of some deeper things. Security goes extra deep. A lot of places don't operate within security that deep, and so that's the problem. Our CISO doesn't know security. Yeah, that's not an uncommon occurrence, to be 100% honest. A lot of CISOs, a lot of ISOs, a lot of security officers, like all they do is watch for reports, and when vulnerabilities come out, they say, hey, make sure your stuff's updated. And they say, give me a printout that says your stuff's updated, and I'll say, all right, my stuff's updated, here you go. And they're like, great, I'll file this away in my portfolio, because that's what I'm here to do, is to make sure you're compliant. I'm sorry if I'm hurting someone's feelings, but that's been my experience with a lot of security officers. So they get paid a lot. They get paid a whole lot to do that. They get paid a whole lot to do it. There's a lot of places in tech where you can get paid a lot to do a little, but it's also high risk. You know, like, yeah, if a security incident happens, maybe you'll get fired for it. I don't know. Like, it's high risk, maybe not a lot of work, but yeah, you can do that. You can file the paper. You can make sure that this box is checked. I've had to go through before and take screenshots. Like, I've gotten the whole job that the ISO had to do was say, hey, I have this report. I need you to go take some screenshots of this and of all these things. So I was like, what does this prove? Like, how does this prove things are secure? Like, take a picture of this setting. Like, really? Like, that is like, can you go take a picture of the setting, please? But like, I mean, hey, security is important. The way that people implement it may not be. But yeah, all right, we are at, what time are we at? We are at 9:33. So a lot of questions. Reach out into Discord or in Slack with any questions that I did not get to answer. I'm really sorry if I didn't get to answer your questions. Hopefully you got something out of tonight. Let's talk about those tangible takeaways really quick. What are those tangible takeaways? Tonight we talked about setting up our accounts. We learned a little bit about a root user versus an IAM user. Not really. You just know that right now you're using your root user, and that once we learn about IAM, we should no longer be using our root users. You also learned a little bit about the AWS console. You learned that it's a graphical user interface that you can use to manage your AWS account and the resources inside of it. You learned about the different AWS service categories. Now, we didn't remember all of the 175 services, but we know that there are a number of service categories that we can reference. There's compute, there's things about management and compliance, there's things about machine learning. There are a number of categories that these services fall into. And we looked over those. We also learned about the AWS global infrastructure. So we learned about regions, which are geographic places around the world that data center clusters of data centers lie. There are 24 of them currently in the AWS global infrastructure. Then we learned a little bit about availability zones that I highly encourage you all to go Google those and take a look at the page that I posted. But these are one or more data centers that have redundant networking and redundant power, all that stuff inside of a region. So availability zones exist inside of a region that provide for some redundancy and some failover there. And we also learned a little bit about edge locations, which are geographic places around the world that Amazon uses for caching, specifically for a service that we talked about called CloudFront, which is a content delivery network. It's called a CDN. And what that does is it caches data geographically closest to people, and it keeps that data cached there so that people can access it quicker, but also it doesn't overload servers because it's not making requests back to the machines. We'll dive deeper into that. Not crazy important, just wanted to make you a little uncomfortable there. And then we just discussed a little bit about some of the certifications here that we have inside of Amazon that we might be going towards. Like I said, this beginner class, this associate level or not apprentice level class, is going for the cloud practitioner. The mid-level, the journeyman level, will be focusing on this level, and the advanced level, which is the master level, will be focusing on this level. I'm going to grab the solutions architect cert before I teach the master level, so I have the 16 weeks basically to make sure that I get this. I have been studying for it. I've studied for this a few times. I've never taken it though. So I'm gonna make sure I have that, just to make sure I'm giving you guys all you need. But like I said, I've had both of these certifications. I've been working with AWS for a long time, so make sure that happens. But that's the rundown for tonight. A fair amount of information. Take a look at this stuff. Write down. I hope you were writing down anything that we said that you didn't understand. It's okay. We learned a little bit about the command line. We touched a bunch of stuff. It's okay. We'll do something later and you'll be like, oh, that's why we did that day, or that's why we touched this thing, and maybe it doesn't make sense now, but we'll say something else. And you'll be like, okay, I got it now. It's okay. The pieces will fall into place. We're just throwing everything at you here. Difference between two solutions architects is just that this one covers much less stuff. The solutions they're having you solve aren't quite as intense. This is much deeper and much broader into AWS services as a whole, and the kind of solutions you're solving, the scale of the solutions you're solving as well. So it can be a little bit tough, but as usual, we're gonna rate somebody. Let's check who's streaming right now in the science and tech. So yeah, we can go to Dow. So I'm just giving you a disclaimer. I love Dow. I love Dow's channel. He's a security guy, does a lot of Python stuff, but he's a character. And if you don't like profanity, be wary. But we're definitely gonna head over to Dow. Is Dow streaming right now? I don't see him. Actually, I mean, we'll do Dow. We'll do Dow another night. Coding Garden was in here. He's gifted you all a bunch of subs, to be honest. So let's head over and give Coding Garden. He's usually not streaming during this time, I don't think. So let's head over and let's raid Coding Garden. Coding Garden's dope. If you're trying to learn how to code, Coding Garden I'm so serious. Like, he's amazing. I've learned a lot about so the project that I work on is a JavaScript project, and I didn't know JavaScript very much, React and all that stuff before I started in that position. And I watched this stuff and I learned a lot from it. So I would definitely check them out. Do we have access to tutors if we need more help? Good question. I don't have any access to tutors, but I would highly recommend reaching out into the channels, into the various channels that we have in Slack or Discord, and see what answers you can get. But I can, if that's a resource you're looking for, I can help you find it if you are looking for any resources. I would also use some of the other streamers. Like I said, the reason why we raid other channels is because a lot of other streamers are good resources as well. So Coding Garden, let's head over. We're gonna raid in 10, 9. Wait. Before we're still on the raid. We're still going on the raid. But remember, that's the end for this week. Take the quiz if you're interested in pipelines. If you want to learn a little bit more about DevOps and SRE, we'll be streaming on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 10 to 1. But we'll be back on Monday if you're interested, or if you're interested in coding, we will be doing Decoded tomorrow. So you can tune in for that. But let's head over and say what's up to Coding Garden. Peace out.